My daughter asked me for $42,000 over a chicken Caesar salad, then told me I wasn't invited to the wedding. She didn't say it in that order. First came the venue deposit, the catering minimum, and a sentence about how quickly good photographers book up. Then she showed me a spreadsheet on her phone and said, "I know it looks like a lot altogether." I slid her phone back across the table. That usually means it is a lot. She gave me the small, patient smile she used when I failed to understand something that had already been discussed without me. "I'm not asking you to cover everything, Dad. Just $42,000 of everything." Her smile disappeared. She folded her napkin into a narrow strip, then folded it again. "There's one more thing." That was when I knew the money wasn't the difficult part. Around us, forks clicked against white plates. Somebody behind the bar dropped a glass and received a little burst of applause. Claire stared at the napkin between her fingers. "Mom says she won't come if you're there." I waited for the rest. There wasn't any. So I said, "Your solution is that I won't be there." Her eyes lifted. "I knew you'd phrase it like that." I looked down at my salad. The waitress had asked if I wanted anchovies, and I'd said yes because I'd reached an age where I no longer felt the need to apologize for fish. One silver strip lay across a piece of romaine, shining under the pendant light. How should I phrase it? Claire leaned closer. "This is exactly why I wanted to talk in person." "So I couldn't hang up? So you could hear my tone." "I hear it." "No, you hear words. Then you line them up like evidence." I almost smiled. That was a very Claire sentence. Specific, irritated, and polished enough that I suspected she'd practiced it in the car. My daughter was 34 with Susan's dark eyes and my unfortunate habit of tightening her jaw when she was trying not to say something cruel. She wore navy scrubs under a camel-colored coat because she had come straight from the rehabilitation clinic. There was a pale indentation on the bridge of her nose from protective glasses. One loose strand of hair kept falling forward, and every few minutes she tucked it back without noticing. I knew all the ordinary things about her. She hated wet socks. She put hot sauce on scrambled eggs. She would drive 20 miles to return a borrowed casserole dish rather than let it sit in her kitchen overnight. I had not known my presence at her wedding was optional. She exhaled. "Mom has been clear about what she can handle. Your mother has always been very clear about what other people need to handle. Please don't start. I'm eating lettuce. You know what I mean. Actually, I'm waiting for you to tell me." The waitress approached with a pepper grinder and the optimistic expression of someone entering a conversation she had not heard. "Fresh pepper?" Claire said no. At the same time, I said yes. The waitress looked between us. "On mine," I told her. "Apparently, I'm the only one making decisions for myself today." Claire closed her eyes. The waitress ground pepper over my salad with the speed of a woman escaping a small fire. When she left, Claire lowered her voice. "This isn't a punishment." "What is it?" "A boundary." "Whose?" "Mom's. And I'm on the wrong side of it. She gets anxious around you. I haven't been in the same room with her for almost 3 years. That doesn't mean nothing happened before that. No, it means she's had 3 years to recover from the last time I said hello." Claire sat back. "You always do that. Say hello, make everything sound ridiculous so you don't have to deal with the real issue." I stopped turning my fork in my hand. "What's the real issue?" She looked toward the front window. Outside, a delivery driver in a red jacket was locking his bike to a parking meter. It had rained that morning, and passing cars drew gray fans of water from the curb. "The marriage," she said. "The way you treated her. The way you left." "We've talked about the divorce." "No," Mom talked. "You sat there and said it was between the two of you. It was. I was 22, not 6. I know how old you were. You acted like being silent made you noble. That landed close enough to something true that I didn't brush it away." I set down my fork. "Do you believe I'm dangerous to your mother?" Claire frowned. "I didn't say dangerous. Do you think I'll yell at her?" "No." "Insult her?" "No." "Throw a centerpiece?" "Dad. I'm trying to understand the emergency. She won't be comfortable. Neither will I, apparently. But no one's redesigning the wedding around that. That's not fair. Fair would be a strange thing to bring into this conversation." Her cheeks flushed. "You think this is easy for me?" I looked at the spreadsheet still glowing on her phone. I could see categories without reading the numbers. Venue, catering, floral, rentals, music. "I think you've made one part of it easy." She turned the phone face down. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. A server carried a birthday dessert past our table, and 6 adults in business clothes sang to a 7th adult who looked furious about it. Claire watched them until they finished. Graham says he won't let Mom be put in a situation that's emotionally unsafe. I knew Graham would be somewhere in the sentence eventually. Susan married him 4 years after our divorce. He sold commercial flooring, played bad golf with tremendous confidence, and used the word protect when he meant decide. The two of us had never exchanged more than 20 consecutive words, although I had once listened to him explain my own retirement benefits to me at Michael's birthday dinner. "What does Aaron say?" I asked. Claire rubbed the corner of her napkin between her thumb and forefinger. "He wants everyone to be comfortable. Aaron works with people recovering from spinal injuries. He must know that isn't medically possible. He doesn't want to get in the middle. He's marrying you. The middle is where he lives now." That almost got a laugh. I saw it arrive and get turned away. "He trusts me to handle my family," she said. "Good. How's that going?" Her chair made a hard sound against the floor when she shifted. I should have stopped. There are moments when one more sentence becomes the difference between honesty and appetite. I had spent years congratulating myself for knowing that difference. That afternoon, I was less certain. Claire picked up her water and took a drink. "The ceremony will be streamed," she said. "They have a really good setup, not just somebody holding a phone. You'd be able to see everything." I stared at her. She hurried on. "And I thought you and I could do something separately. Dinner the week before, somewhere nice. Just us. We could make that our thing. Our thing. You know what I mean?" "I'm not sure I do." A private moment. Without all the noise. "Will I be allowed to attend dinner?" She put down the glass. Water jumped over the rim and darkened the tablecloth. "Why do you have to make me feel horrible?" I reached for my napkin and placed it over the spill. My hands were steady. They had always been steady. For 37 years, I had taught young adults not to panic around live current. Check the source, check your meter, know where your hands are. Most damage happened after the first surprise, when somebody reacted too fast. "I'm not making you feel anything," I said. That cold, technical thing you do. I'm trying very hard not to say the first thing in my head. Maybe I'd prefer that." "No, you wouldn't." She looked at me for a long moment. "This is why Mom can't be around you." It was a clean hit. Claire knew it as soon as she said it. Her mouth opened slightly, but no apology came. I folded my napkin once and set it beside my plate. "When is the wedding?" "October 18th. "Where?" "The Ashford House." I knew the place. An old brick hotel outside Wilmington, renovated into one of those wedding venues where every photograph looked as if the bride had inherited a minor English estate. Susan had sent me a link to it years ago because she wanted to attend a Christmas tea there. I had forgotten to make the reservation. How many guests? 112. And there's no chair for me. That's not what this is about. I taught electrical code for 37 years. Numbers comfort me. 112 chairs. $42,000. 0 invitations. She shoved the spreadsheet into her purse. "You promised you'd help with my wedding. I said I wanted to. You said you'd been saving. I have. So now you're using the money to force me to choose." I leaned back. There it was. Not whether I could afford it. Not whether the amount was reasonable. Not even whether asking me under these circumstances was decent. In Claire's version, the money already belonged to her, and withholding it was an action I was taking against her. "Who told you I'd pay $42,000? No one had to tell me. You paid for Michael's program. Michael borrowed $12,000 and repaid $9,000. You told him not to worry about the rest, because he was taking care of me after my knee surgery. You always have an explanation. Most adults do." She pulled her coat tighter around herself, though the restaurant was warm. "Mom and Graham can't contribute much. Aaron's parents are paying for the rehearsal dinner. I'm not asking for some ridiculous princess wedding. I haven't called it ridiculous. You're sitting there judging every decision. I learned about the decisions 11 minutes ago. You knew I was getting married. I also knew I was your father. Today has been educational." She flinched. That should have satisfied me. It didn't. The waitress appeared again, this time holding the check as if it might require legal service. "Can I get either of you coffee? Dessert?" "No, thank you," Claire said. "I'll take coffee." Claire stared at me. "What?" I said. "I drove 40 minutes. The waitress placed the check near the center of the table and fled. Claire reached for it. "I got there first." "At least let me. I invited you," I said. She gave a short laugh with no humor in it. Of course you did. I put my credit card on the tray. She stood, lifting her purse from the back of the chair. I have to get back. You still have 20 minutes. I'm done. Claire. She paused but didn't sit. I looked up at her, at the daughter whose first apartment I had painted in August, with no air conditioning because she had been too impatient to wait until fall. The daughter who once called me from a grocery store at 30 years old to ask how to tell if a cantaloupe was ripe. The woman now asking me to purchase a room I could not enter. I need some time, I said. Her expression changed. Hope, maybe. Or relief that I hadn't said no. The venue deposit is due Monday. That isn't time. That's a countdown. I can maybe get them to hold it until Wednesday. I'm not discussing their deadline. She hooked the purse strap over her shoulder. Just think about what this means to me. I nodded slowly. I will. She waited. When I didn't promise anything else, she left. Through the window, I watched her hurry across the wet parking lot. She never looked back. She got into her gray SUV, sat behind the wheel for several seconds, then lifted both hands to her face. My coffee arrived after she drove away. I drank it black. It wasn't good, but it was hot, and holding the cup gave my hands something ordinary to do. By the time I reached home, Susan had called twice. My house sat at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac, where every mailbox had been replaced at least once except mine. The cedar post leaned 3 degrees to the left. I knew because I had measured it. I kept meaning to fix it and had not, which was the sort of detail Susan used to consider proof of a larger moral failure. I hung my coat in the hall and listened to her first message. Daniel, Claire told me what happened. Please don't turn this into a battle. Call me. The second was 7 minutes later. This is her wedding, not a referendum on our marriage. For once, try to think about what she needs instead of what feels fair to you. I stood in my kitchen with the phone in my hand. On the refrigerator was a photograph of Claire and Aaron from the previous Thanksgiving. Aaron was laughing at something outside the frame. Claire had one hand on his chest and the other holding a wooden spoon. I had taken the picture while making dinner for 10 people who had arrived hungry and left with leftovers. The phone rang again. This time it was Claire, I answered. Her voice was softer than it had been in the restaurant. Dad, I need to know you're not going to punish me for choosing peace. I looked at the photograph. Claire, I said, whose piece are you choosing? She didn't answer. Then the line went dead. I called her back. It went straight to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. Anything I said would become one more object carried between houses, turned over, inspected, and described differently depending on who was holding it. The refrigerator started humming. I took the photograph down and studied it as if there might be something in the background I had missed. Claire wore a green sweater with the sleeves pushed to her elbows. Aaron's glasses had slipped down his nose. Behind them, on the counter, sat the sweet potatoes Susan had brought in a casserole dish she insisted could not go in the dishwasher. Graham was in the dining room explaining football to Michael, who knew more about football than Graham did, but lacked Graham's stamina. It had been a good day, or it had looked like one. I put the photograph back, changed out of my wet shoes, and reheated the half pot of chili I'd made Sunday. While it warmed, I checked my email. There was already a message from Claire. The subject line said, Ashford Estimate, as though we were co-workers attempting to resolve a purchasing issue. She had attached the same spreadsheet from lunch and added the venue proposal. Her message contained 3 sentences. Here are the numbers we discussed. The amount highlighted in yellow is what I'm asking from you. I love you and hope you can separate our relationship from one difficult day. I read the last sentence twice. Then I closed the laptop and ate my chili standing at the counter. Susan called at 7:14. I answered because ignoring her would have felt good for approximately 5 minutes and created work for the rest of the week. Hello, Susan. You got my messages? I did. And they were both very clear. Daniel, don't do this. I pulled out a chair and sat at the kitchen table. You called me. You know what I mean. I genuinely don't. She made a sound in the back of her throat. It was familiar enough to put me in our old kitchen, where the cabinet over the stove never closed properly, and Susan blamed the hinge while I blamed the cabinet. Claire is devastated, she said. She seemed angry. Anger is how she protects herself when she's hurt. That comes from your side. Could you not make a joke for once? I could. I'm deciding whether this is the occasion. She thinks you're going to withdraw your contribution to punish her. There is no contribution to withdraw. She asked me today. You've been telling her for years that you were saving for her wedding. I told her I'd like to help when the day came. The day came. Apparently not for me. Susan went quiet. I could hear a television in the background. Graham said something I couldn't make out, and she covered the phone to answer him. For years I had been annoyed by the way she continued a second conversation while on the phone with me. Now it made me strangely sad. Some irritation survived a marriage better than affection did. When she came back, her voice had tightened. I did not ask Claire to exclude you. She said you wouldn't attend if I did. I told her I didn't know if I could handle being there with you. That is a sentence designed to make someone else decide. I was being honest about my limits. You handed her a loaded choice and left the room. You always hear strategy where there is pain, and you always hear virtue when you describe your own strategy. She inhaled sharply. There was a time when that sound would have warned me to retreat. I would lower my voice, become more precise, and wait until she wore herself out. Then I would tell myself I had stayed calm. That had been one of my worst habits. I could make control look so much like patience that even I believed it. I rested my palm against the tabletop. Let me ask you directly, I said. Do you want me at Claire's wedding? No. The answer came so quickly it startled both of us. Susan recovered first. I'm not going to lie to make you feel better. I appreciate that. Don't. Don't what? Use that voice. This is my voice. No, that's the voice you use when you want everyone else to feel hysterical. I looked across the dark kitchen. The porch light cast a pale rectangle on the floor by the back door. Why don't you want me there? You know why. I know why we divorced. I don't know why two adults can't spend 6 hours in the same building 12 years later. It wouldn't be 6 hours. It would be weeks of dread before, then the ceremony, the photographs, the speeches, everyone watching us to see if we look at each other. Everyone pretending they don't remember. Remember what? Our marriage. I waited. That isn't an event, Susan. It was to me. I closed my eyes. That was also a clean hit. She continued before I could answer. You walked through 28 years like you were tolerating a noise no one else could hear. Every argument ended with you getting quieter until I sounded insane. Then you left without fighting for anything. You asked me to leave. I wanted you to fight me. I thought you wanted me gone. That was always your excuse. You did exactly what people said, then acted surprised when they wanted to matter enough for you to resist. I stood and walked to the sink. There were 2 bowls in it, though I had eaten alone both nights. One was from breakfast. I turned on the faucet, then turned it off because I couldn't hear her over the water. This isn't about our wedding, Susan said. It's about Claire's. We agree on that. Then give her the money. No. Silence filled the line so completely I checked the screen to see if the call had dropped. No, she said. I won't pay for a wedding I've been told not to attend. So it is conditional. Yes. She laughed once bitterly. At least you're finally admitting it. Of course it's conditional. If she asked me to pay for a cruise I couldn't board, would you call that unconditional love? She's not buying a cruise. Good. I get seasick. Daniel? What word would you prefer? Extortion seems too dramatic. Absurd is closer. This is her one wedding. I hope so. You're making it about your pride. I'd call it dignity. You always would. Graham's voice rose in the background. This time, I heard him clearly. Tell him a father doesn't get to dictate terms. I waited for Susan to tell Graham I could hear him. She didn't. Is Graham part of this call? I asked. He's here supporting me. He's doing it from 6 feet away at a volume usually reserved for ferry terminals. Maybe because he cares what happens to this family. That one didn't land cleanly. It tore. I gripped the edge of the sink and looked at my hand. A small white scar crossed my index finger from the time I slipped while stripping wire in 1997. Claire had been afraid of the bandage. She kept asking if my finger would fall off, and I had wiggled it at her until she laughed. You're right, I said. I haven't always shown that well. Susan said nothing. But I'm not paying. Then you may lose her. My throat tightened so fast it angered me. If our relationship depends on $42,000, I said, then I've already lost something. I just didn't know it. I ended the call before she could answer. My reflection in the dark window looked calm. I wanted to punch it. Instead, I washed the bowls. I slept badly and woke before the alarm. By 6:30, I was in the garage with the door open, pretending the mailbox post had become urgent. The air smelled of wet earth and gasoline. I found my level, socket set. a length of cedar left over from a fence repair, and 3 different containers of screws because I had never developed the courage to throw away hardware. At 7:10, a blue sedan slowed in front of the house. Michael parked at the curb and got out carrying 2 paper coffee cups and a white bakery bag. He was 31, tall and narrow like my father, with a beard he trimmed more carefully than he admitted. He worked in database security for a regional bank and dressed for every occasion as if someone might suddenly request a video conference. "Mom called you," I said. "Good morning to you too." He held out one of the cups. I took it. "Is this an intervention?" "It's coffee. From where?" "Mallard's. It's an expensive intervention." He looked at the tools spread across the driveway. "What are you doing?" "Fixing the mailbox." "At 7 in the morning?" It's been leaning since I was in college. I've been busy." "With retirement?" "That takes more time than you'd think." Michael opened the bakery bag and offered me a cinnamon roll. I shook my head. He tore off a piece and ate it. "Claire called me last night," he said. "I assumed there was a phone tree. She's upset. So I hear. She said you won't help with the wedding. Did she mention I won't be attending?" "She did." "Before or after the money?" "Dad, the order creates emphasis." He crouched beside the old post and pressed it with one finger. It moved easily in the damp soil. "This thing's rotten," he said. I had noticed. "You need a new post." I pointed to the cedar. "That's not pressure treated. It's what I have. It'll rot too. Eventually everything does. Most home repair is choosing a slower failure." He gave me a look. "You've been saving that line since 1994. Michael took another bite of cinnamon roll. He watched a woman in a purple tracksuit walk a terrier past the end of the cul-de-sac. "I think what Claire's asking is wrong," he said. I turned toward him. He raised a hand. "Let me finish. I think it's wrong. I also think if you refuse, everybody's going to act like the money is the reason this family blows up." "Everybody?" "You know who I mean. I'm trying to stop knowing who people mean." He sighed and wiped sugar from his thumb. "Mom says you're doing this to force Claire to invite you. Your mother has spent 12 years explaining my motives to me. It saves time." "Are you?" "Am I what?" "Trying to force her?" I set down my coffee. "No. I would like my daughter to want me at her wedding. Those are not the same thing. If she changes her mind because of the money, would you go?" The question caught somewhere behind my ribs. Across the street, Mr. Pell opened his garage, saw us, and lifted one hand. I lifted mine back. He stood there for a second, perhaps hoping for news about the mailbox, then disappeared inside. "I don't know," I said. Michael nodded, as if that answer worried him more than yes or no. He nudged the rotten post with the toe of his shoe. "Claire thinks you've already decided. I haven't. The deposit deadline is tomorrow. That's not my deadline. She may lose the date. She may, and you're okay with that?" "No." He studied me. "You look okay." I picked up the shovel and pushed it into the soft ground beside the post. "Looking okay is not the same as being okay, Michael." He crouched to hold the wood steady while I worked. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then he said, "That might be the first useful thing anybody in this family has said since yesterday." I pushed the shovel deeper. "Don't tell them," I said. "They'll think I'm taking sides." Michael snorted, then tried to hide it by drinking coffee. "Hold that straight," I said. "It is straight. It's leaning toward you. Maybe you're leaning. I'm the one with the level. You're the one who installed the first crooked mailbox." The ground shifted. Over 15 years? Geology is patient. He put both hands around the post and moved it half an inch. I checked the bubble, adjusted the cedar, checked again. Right there. "You know," he said, "normal fathers ask their sons to play golf. Normal sons don't show up at 7 in the morning, carrying messages from enemy territory." I brought a cinnamon roll. Spies often bring gifts. We worked until my shoulders warmed and the coffee went cold. Michael held the new post while I packed gravel around the base. He didn't know how to use the tamper efficiently, but he attacked the job with the confidence of a man who assumed enthusiasm could replace rhythm. After 30 seconds, he was breathing hard. "You want me to do that?" I asked. "No. You look like you're losing a fight with a butter churn. I sit for a living, I've noticed." He stopped and leaned on the handle. "Claire wants me to walk Mom to her seat." I looked at him. "At the wedding," he added. I understood the setting. I said yes before I knew about all this. "You should still do it." His eyebrows rose. "Really? Why wouldn't you?" "I thought you might consider it disloyal. You're not being asked to throw me out of the building. I'm already not in it. He looked down at the gravel. I'm not asking you to choose, I said. Everyone says that right before they explain why there's only one acceptable choice. I'm sure you'll disappoint me eventually. Save it for something worthwhile. He smiled, but it faded quickly. What are you going to tell Claire? The truth. Which part? That I'm not paying? He straightened. Until then, I think he had believed the refusal was a position I had taken for negotiations. A high opening number in reverse. Families negotiate without admitting it all the time. We call it concern, disappointment, tradition, respect. The words change. The pressure doesn't. You're sure? He asked. Yes. What if she invites you? I don't know. That's a pretty important detail. An invitation offered because she wants $42,000 isn't an invitation. What if she realizes she's wrong? By tomorrow? People have realized bigger things faster. Name one. He thought about it. New Coke. That took 79 days. You know that, but can't remember your phone password. My phone has never altered a beverage market. Michael shook his head. He went back to packing the gravel, slower this time. When the post stood on its own, I attached the old mailbox. Its black paint had faded to charcoal, and the metal flag squeaked when I raised it. The new cedar beneath it looked too clean. Michael stepped back to inspect our work. It's still crooked, he said. The box is crooked. The post is perfect. So now the flaw is more noticeable. That happens when you fix the part underneath. He looked at me sideways. Was that one saved since 1994 too? No, that one was free. He left just after 8, carrying the empty bakery bag and promising to buy pressure-treated lumber when the cedar inevitably rotted. At the curb, he stopped. You're not going to ask me to report back? About what? The wedding? Mom? Claire? No. He waited, like he didn't trust the answer. If you want to tell me something because you want me to know it, tell me, I said. I'm not putting you in the middle. I think I was born in the middle. Then move. He gave me a small salute, got in his car, and drove away. I remained by the mailbox long after there was any reason to. The post was level. Michael was right about the box. It sagged slightly to the left, making the whole repair look questionable. I could have adjusted it in 5 minutes. I went inside instead. Claire didn't answer my first call. She called back at 9:23 while I was at the workbench cleaning dirt from the shovel. I have a patient in 10 minutes, she said. I only need 5. That sounds ominous. I wanted to tell you before the venue deadline. I'm not giving you the $42,000. There was no sound on the line except a faint rush of air. I rubbed a spot of dried mud from the shovel blade with my thumb. All of it? She asked. Yes. So, you won't help at all. I didn't say forever. I said, I'm not paying for this wedding under these circumstances. Under the circumstances I can't change. You can change your guest list. And lose Mom. I'm not asking you to lose anyone. What do you think will happen if I invite you? I think your mother will have to make her own decision. No, I'll have to make it for her. That's what you don't understand. I understand that's what she taught you. Claire's voice sharpened. Don't psychoanalyze me. I'm an electrician. The best I can do is check for faulty connections. This is funny to you? Nothing about this has been funny. Then why do you keep making jokes? Because if I only say what hurts, you'll call it pressure. She was silent. Somewhere on her end, a door opened. A woman said, Claire, whenever you're ready. Claire answered, 1 minute. Then she came back to me. If I invite you, will you pay? The question was so direct I respected it, even as it broke something. No. Then this isn't about attending. It is. But I'm not buying the invitation either. You said you didn't know if you would pay if I changed my mind. I don't know if you'd be changing your mind or changing the price. That makes no sense. It makes perfect sense. You can invite me because you want me there. We can discuss our relationship because it needs discussing. The money is no longer attached to either one. You attached it. You did that at lunch. She breathed out hard. We've already signed with the photographer. Then keep the photographer. The package was chosen for Ashford. It includes 10 hours, a second shooter, the engagement session, Claire. What? You don't have to prove to me that you've spent money. I'm explaining commitments. I understand commitments. No, you understand your commitments. Everybody else's are just bad planning. I sat on the stool by my workbench. She had inherited my ability to find the soft spot while sounding reasonable. It was uncomfortable to admire a weapon pointed at me. "What will you do?" I asked. "What do you care?" "Quite a bit. I'll figure it out." "That's what you want, right? For me to learn some lesson about living within my means?" "This isn't a lesson." "Of course it is. You're a teacher. Everything has to be a lesson." The woman in the background called her name again. "I have to go," Claire said. "All right. I hope you're happy with this. I'm sitting alone in my garage holding a dirty shovel. You know what I mean." "Yes," I said. "That's the problem." She hung up. I finished cleaning the shovel, wiped down the bench, and put every tool back where it belonged. The work took 4 minutes. I stretched it to 15. At noon, I drove to the hardware store for exterior screws I did not need. I walked through plumbing, lighting, seasonal storage, and a display of patio furniture marked down 30%. Retired men wandered hardware stores, the way earlier generations wandered public squares. We touched lumber, compared drill bits, and nodded solemnly at each other's carts. In the fastener aisle, a man named Russ recognized me from the college. He had taken my night class 20 years earlier and now ran maintenance for a pharmaceutical warehouse. "Mr. Mercer," he said, crushing my hand. "You still teaching?" "Not unless someone makes a dangerous mistake near me." He laughed. "You used to scare the hell out of us. I was trying to keep you alive. Same result." He told me about a former classmate, his new truck, and an arc flash incident that damaged a panel but no people. Then he asked about my family. "Claire's getting married," I said. "No kidding. You walking her down the aisle?" The answer rose to my mouth and stopped there. "I don't know what they're doing," I said. Russ nodded as though weddings were naturally secretive. "My daughter made us rehearse the walk 4 times, said I was too fast. I told her I had waited 31 years to get rid of her and wasn't slowing down at the finish line." I laughed because he did. On the drive home, I kept seeing a church aisle I had never discussed with Claire. Maybe she planned to walk alone. Maybe Graham would walk beside her. Maybe she had decided years ago and assumed I understood. My phone rang through the car speakers. The display showed Aaron. I nearly let it go to voicemail. Then I pressed the button on the steering wheel. "Hello? Mr. Mercer?" "It's Aaron." I recognized the name. "Do you have a minute? I'm driving, but I can talk." There was a pause. "I'm not calling to pressure you," he said. "That puts you ahead of the field. I'm guessing you've heard from Susan. And Graham, though not officially." Aaron cleared his throat. "Claire told me you said no. She works quickly. She's having a hard day. I'm sorry to hear that. She had to move patients around because she couldn't focus." I tightened my hands on the wheel. "Is that information, or am I meant to do something with it?" "Information." "All right." Another pause. Aaron's silences were different from mine. Mine had edges. His seemed to come from turning each sentence over before he handed it to somebody. "I knew you weren't coming," he said. "I didn't know when Claire asked you for the money. I passed my street and kept driving." "What did you think happened?" "She told me the two of you were going to have your own celebration, and that you understood why the wedding would be difficult for Susan." "I understand that Susan doesn't want me there. That's not how Claire described it." "How did she describe it?" He hesitated. "Like you had agreed it might be better." A truck behind me honked when I slowed at a green light. I raised one hand in apology and pulled into the parking lot of a closed garden center. "Aaron," I said, "did Claire tell you I was contributing $42,000? "No." "She said you'd offered to help." "I offered nothing. She asked yesterday." He exhaled slowly. "This is not a conversation I wanted to have while you're driving." "I've stopped." "Good." I waited. "I need to talk to Claire," he said. "That sounds sensible. I'm not saying it changes anything. I didn't ask you to. I love her, I know. And Susan really is afraid of being around you. I know she says that. You don't believe her? I believe she feels something. I don't agree that every feeling creates an obligation for everyone else." He was quiet again. Then he said, "Claire thinks if you don't pay, Ashford will give away the date. She may be right. We could cover the deposit ourselves." That surprised me. Then why doesn't she? "We'd have to reduce the rest of the wedding. A lot. That sounds like a decision for the 2 people getting married." "Yes," he said, but there was fatigue beneath it. "It does." We ended the call politely. I sat in the empty parking lot with a box of unnecessary screws on the passenger seat. At 4:30, my bank sent an alert that Claire had deposited a check I'd written her 3 weeks earlier for $400. She had bought new tires after finding a sidewall crack, and I had told her I would help. I stared at the notification. The check had nothing to do with the wedding. The tires had nothing to do with the wedding. $400 was not $42,000. Still, the timing felt like a sentence. At 6, Michael texted me. Claire and Aaron paid the deposit themselves. Mom says, congratulations. She doesn't mean it. I typed 3 replies and erased all 3. Then another message appeared. Claire says, you got what you wanted? I looked through the front window at the new mailbox post, standing straight beneath the crooked metal box. For the first time all day, I knew exactly what to say. I typed, I wanted a chair. Then I set the phone face down before anyone could explain why that was too much. The phone stayed face down until it buzzed against the table. I let it buzz twice before turning it over. Michael had reacted to my message with a thumbs up. A thumbs up was not what the sentence deserved. It was too cheerful. It made it look as though I had asked him to pick up milk. Still, he was the only person in the family who had not followed his response with instructions, so I accepted it. No one called that night. The quiet should have been a relief. Instead, it felt staged, like everyone had agreed to leave me alone where I could think about what I had done. I opened Claire's wedding spreadsheet again. The venue cost more than my first house. Flowers were listed at $6,400, which seemed less like a purchase than a ransom paid to spring nature from captivity. Under music, she had budgeted for both a string quartet and a disc jockey. I tried to imagine a social emergency requiring both. Then I closed the file because counting other people's choices was becoming too satisfying. The next morning, I found 3 envelopes in the repaired mailbox. None contained anything useful, but the door opened without scraping the post, and the little red flag no longer dropped by itself. Mr. Pell watched me from across the street. You straighten that thing? He called. The post. Box looks crooked. I'm aware, Ed. Want me to come over? No, I have a level. So do I. He nodded. Good talk. He went back into his garage. The family silence lasted until Friday, when Claire sent a group text about Sunday dinner. Are we still doing dads at 5? I stared at the message. I had hosted dinner almost every Sunday since retirement, though attendance expanded and contracted with schedules, weather, and Susan's feelings about whether my house was neutral territory. Usually it was Claire and Aaron, Michael if he wasn't traveling, sometimes Susan and Graham if enough people were present to prevent direct conversation. I had already bought a chuck roast, Michael replied first. I'm in? Aaron's response came 2 minutes later. I can be there. Claire waited almost an hour. I don't think Sunday is a good idea right now. Aaron's message disappeared. He must have deleted it, though the notification remained on my screen. A few seconds later, another appeared. Actually, I forgot we have wedding stuff. Sorry, Daniel. He had never called me Daniel in a text. I typed, dinner is at 5 for anyone who wants dinner. Claire reacted with nothing. Michael sent a picture of a fork and knife. I put the roast in the refrigerator. On Sunday afternoon, I peeled 6 potatoes. That was the number I always peeled, even when only 4 people were coming, because Claire liked the crisp pieces from the edge of the roasting pan, and Aaron took leftovers for lunch. I cut the carrots into thick diagonal pieces. Susan used to slice them into coins and complain that mine cooked unevenly. Mine did cook unevenly. Some became soft and sweet, others kept a little resistance. I preferred them that way, and had never said so while we were married. At 4:45, I set 4 places. At 4:58, Michael arrived carrying a bottle of red wine and an overnight bag. You moving in? I asked. Laundry. You own a washing machine. It makes a noise. All washing machines make a noise. This one sounds expensive. He set the bag beside the basement door. At 5:12, it was clear no one else was coming. Michael looked at the 4 plates. You expected them? I expected possibilities. That's bleak. It's accurate. I removed 2 plates and put them back in the cabinet. Michael opened the wine. We ate at the small kitchen table instead of the dining room table. The roast was good. The potatoes were better. Michael took seconds before he had finished chewing his first serving, which I chose to interpret as affection. Halfway through dinner, he said, Aaron wanted to come. I guessed. Claire said it would look like he was taking your side. Nothing says healthy marriage like sides. They had a fight. About me? About money. That sounds more promising. Michael gave me a look over his wine glass. You know you can be a little pleased without looking pleased. I'm not pleased. Your left eyebrow is. I touched it. They paid $12,000 for the deposit, he said. Most of their savings. That was their decision. I know. Do you? Yes. That's why I said it. I cut a piece of carrot. Mom offered them $6,000, he continued. Your mother doesn't have $6,000. She and Graham would put it on a credit card. Then they have negative $6,000. Claire said no. That surprised me. Good, I said. Aaron wants to cut the flower budget and drop the quartet. Claire thinks it will make the ceremony feel cheap. String music has been carrying civilization on its back for centuries. See? Eyebrow. I looked down at my plate. Michael leaned back. Can I tell you something you won't like? You usually do it without asking. You're right about the wedding. I waited. But you're doing the thing. What thing? The quiet thing. I've spoken to everyone who called me. That's not what I mean. You make a decision, then you go calm and wait for everybody else to wear themselves out. I'm supposed to wear myself out? No. You're supposed to be a person in the room. I'm here. You're carving carrots into identical shapes and acting like Claire missing dinner is a scheduling note. They're not identical. I cut them diagonally. Dad. I put down my fork. He looked uncomfortable, which told me he had prepared this part. When Mom was mad, everybody knew, he said. Cabinets closed louder. She cleaned things that were already clean. When you were mad, you got helpful. You fixed the sink. You checked the tires. You asked if anyone wanted coffee. It made us feel stupid for being upset. I wasn't trying to. I know. That almost made it worse. The roast cooled between us. I thought of the years after the divorce, when Claire called Susan crying and called me when her car made a noise. I had considered that evidence that I was reliable. It had never occurred to me that she might not know what else I was for. What do you want me to do? I asked. There. You're making it an assignment. I'm asking. I don't know. Tell her you're hurt without turning it into a ruling. I did. You told her there were 112 chairs and none for you. That was accurate. Accuracy isn't the same as honesty. Did you read that on a mug? I paid a therapist. More expensive then. He laughed despite himself, and the tension loosened without disappearing. After dinner, we carried our plates to the sink. I washed while Michael dried, though he put the roasting pan in the wrong cabinet and pretended he had not. Before he left, I packed 2 containers of leftovers. One for you, I said, one for Claire. Michael looked at the containers. Don't make me deliver emotional pot roast. It's food. With subtext. All pot roast has subtext. Give hers to Aaron. That seems worse. He took both containers. At the door, he hugged me. Michael had begun hugging me after my knee surgery and never stopped, though he always approached as if we were about to move furniture. I'm still on your side, he said. I don't want a side. Everybody wants a side. I want a chair. Yeah, he said. I know. Claire returned the container Tuesday afternoon. She stood on my porch in scrubs, holding the clean plastic dish with both hands. She had always returned containers immediately. Even anger could not overcome household discipline. Michael said, you made this for me. I made it for dinner. I didn't come. I noticed. She handed me the container. I stepped back to let her in, and after a second she crossed the threshold. The house seemed to recognize her. She placed her purse on the same chair she had used since college, and went to the kitchen without asking. I followed. I like the potatoes, she said. Thank you. Aaron ate most of the meat. He has excellent judgment. She set the container beside the sink. Her fingernails were painted a pale pink I hadn't noticed at lunch. I need to ask you something, she said. I waited. It isn't money, that narrows it. She took out her phone and opened a photograph. The picture showed a wooden arch lying in pieces on a concrete floor. It had 2 tall side panels with curved latticework and a crosspiece carved with grapevines. The wood was gray in places and split near one of the joints. Aaron's aunt has this in her barn, Claire said. It was used at her wedding. She said we could have it, but it needs repair. I enlarged the photo. It needs more than repair. She said it's solid walnut. The trim might be. The uprights look like poplar. Could you fix it? I looked at her. I told you it wasn't money, she said. No, it's time. I know, but you like this kind of thing. I like you. Her face tightened. Don't. You said Michael wanted honesty. Michael talked to you about me? He talked to me about me. That must have been brief. I deserved that one. She took the phone back. We can rent an arch. I just thought this one would mean something because it's from Aaron's family. Will Aaron's aunt be at the wedding? Yes. Then it will mean something to her. Claire crossed her arms. You're going to say no just because you can. I'm saying no because you've asked me to help build the ceremony that I'm not permitted to witness. You've built things for people without attending the event, not for my daughter's wedding. It would be a gift. A gift isn't something the recipient names after excluding the giver. She stared at me. You're really going to measure every single thing now, aren't you? No, this is exactly what you're doing. Money, dinner, a piece of wood. Everything goes on your scale. You brought back a container because owing me a plastic dish for 2 days made you uncomfortable. That's different, is it? Yes, because I don't use favors to control people. The words hung between us. I could have listed the calls, the deadline, the invitation tied to payment. I could have won that point so completely that neither of us would have had anywhere to go afterward. Instead, I leaned against the counter. I used money to stay close to you, I said. Claire blinked. I made it too easy for both of us, I continued. You asked, I paid, and neither of us had to discuss what we were to each other. I thought being useful was the same as being loved. Her arms lowered. That isn't what I said. No, it's what I'm saying. She looked toward the refrigerator, at the photograph of her and Aaron. I do love you. I know. You don't sound like you know. I'm trying to understand the form it takes. Her eyes filled, but her voice remained steady. You want me to choose you over Mom? I want you to stop calling my disappearance peace. She picked up her purse. At the doorway, she turned back. We'll rent the arch. All right. It won't mean anything. That's not the same as meaning nothing. She left the clean container beside my sink. I stood there looking at it long after her car had pulled away, wondering whether returning empty-handed was the first thing she had done for me or the first thing she had taken back. The container stayed beside the sink because putting it away felt like accepting an answer I didn't understand. I rinsed it even though Claire had already washed it. Then I dried it and left it in the same place. By Thursday, it had become ridiculous. I opened the cabinet, stacked it with the others, and heard a car door close outside. Susan's silver sedan was parked at the curb. She stood beside the new mailbox with one hand resting on the crooked metal box. Even from the window, I could tell she was judging the repair. I went to the front door. You replaced the post, she said. Good morning. I asked you to do that for 9 years. It wasn't rotten then. It leaned. It still leans. Only the box now. She gave the mailbox a small push. You could fix this part too. I'm trying to become comfortable with imperfection. You picked an interesting week. Susan looked much the way she had at Thanksgiving, though her hair was shorter, and she wore the pale blue jacket Graham had given her for their anniversary. She had once said the color made her look washed out. She wore it whenever they went somewhere together. Are you inviting me in? She asked. I haven't decided whether it would be emotionally safe. She closed her eyes briefly. I drove all the way here to have an adult conversation, then come inside. She followed me to the kitchen. The last time she had been alone in the house was after my knee surgery, when she delivered soup, criticized the crutches, and reorganized the medicine on my bathroom counter. She moved through the room now with the caution of a former tenant inspecting renovations. You got rid of the curtains, she said. They were 15 years old. I chose those. They remained loyal to you until the end. I'm not doing this if everything is going to be a joke. Coffee? No. I poured myself a cup. You always do that too, she said. Drink coffee. Make yourself comfortable when everyone else is upset. I'm in my kitchen. She placed her purse on the table, but kept one hand on the strap. Claire told me about the arch. I assumed she would. You couldn't spend one afternoon helping her? The photograph suggested at least 3. Do you hear yourself? Constantly. It's exhausting. Susan pulled out a chair and sat. She came to you because she was trying to reconnect. She came because Aaron's aunt owns damaged furniture. That isn't fair. No, it isn't. You're punishing her for the invitation. I'm declining wedding labor for a wedding I'm not attending. You used to help people because you wanted to help. I still do. Only if they pass your dignity test? I leaned against the counter. Did Claire tell you what I said to her? She said you gave a speech about how you bought her love. That wasn't the speech. It was close enough. No, Susan. Close enough is how we got here. She looked away. The clock over the stove ticked louder than I remembered. Susan had bought it at a craft fair during our 23rd year of marriage. The face showed herbs around the numbers. Sage at 12, rosemary at 3, basil at 6. I had always thought the placement suggested a code. She thinks you're withdrawing from her, Susan said. I invited her to dinner. Food isn't a conversation. I have been informed. You could call her. She could call me. There. That is exactly what I mean. You turn every relationship into a standoff, then you win by being better at waiting. I stared into my coffee. Susan sat back, watching my face for the retreat she knew. I don't want to do that anymore, I said. Do what? Wait until everyone else is too tired to argue. Then call your daughter and say what? That you love her. I've said that. Say it without a condition attached. I love Claire. I will not pay for her wedding. I will not repair the arch. All three things are true. That's not how love sounds. To you. To most people. Most people aren't asking for $42,000 and a handcrafted monument to my absence. Susan's mouth tightened, but a small sound escaped her. Almost a laugh. We both noticed. I hate when you do that, she said. I know. No, I mean, I hate that you can still make me laugh when I want to throw something. There are no centerpiece rules in my kitchen. Her expression hardened again. You think I'm being dramatic? I think you came here angry and haven't told me the real reason. I told you. Claire is hurt. Claire was hurt before I said no. Susan's fingers moved along the purse strap. The blue jacket rustled when she crossed her arms. You want to know the real reason? She said. Yes. I cannot sit there and watch her honor you like none of it happened. None of what? Don't make me list it. I'm not making you do anything. 28 years of me begging you to be present. Holidays where you disappeared into the garage. Dinners where I tried to tell you I was unhappy, and you asked if I wanted the furnace checked because I said the house felt cold. The furnace was failing. Daniel, I know. Do you? I set the cup down. I knew how to solve things, I said. You wanted me to react to them. I wanted you to care. I did care. You cared privately. That is a useless way to love someone. The sentence filled the kitchen. I thought of Claire standing at my counter, saying she loved me and hearing doubt in my answer. I had spent years believing private feelings were the purest kind because they asked nothing from anyone. Susan's eyes were wet, but her voice stayed level. At the wedding, you'd walk Claire down the aisle, she said. You'd get the dance. You'd make the calm, tasteful toast. Everyone would look at you and think, what a good father. Meanwhile, I'd be sitting there remembering all the times I had to explain your silence to both of your children. No one has asked me to walk her down the aisle. You assumed you would. I assumed I would be in the building, and Graham would be what? The man who showed up after the difficult years and sits politely while you receive the title? You and Graham have been married 8 years. He is not temporary. That isn't what I said. Then what are you asking for, Susan? I'm not asking you for anything. You're asking me to disappear. I'm asking you to let Claire have one day where the past isn't in the room. The past will be sitting beside her in a blue jacket. She stood so quickly the chair scraped the floor. I regretted the sentence before she reached for her purse. Regret did not make it untrue, but it made the truth smaller. I'm sorry, I said. She looked at me, suspicious. I shouldn't have said that. No, it was honest. We're all being honest now. It was cheap. Yes. She remained standing. I didn't ask her to sit. You said I left without fighting, I said. You're right. Her grip loosened on the purse. You asked me to leave, and I packed a suitcase that night. I told myself I was respecting your decision. Part of me was relieved I didn't have to keep failing at a marriage I no longer understood. Susan looked down. That's the first time you've said that. It's the first time I've said it correctly. You could have fought for us. I could have. But by then, every conversation had become a test neither of us explained. You told me to go because you wanted me to prove I'd stay. I went because I wanted you to prove you meant what you said. Her eyes lifted to mine. And Claire paid for it, she said. Yes. The agreement changed the air more than an argument would have. Susan returned to the chair, but did not sit. She thought you didn't care enough to stay. I know. Did you ever tell her otherwise? I said the divorce wasn't her fault. That isn't the same thing. No. Why didn't you? Because explaining myself meant explaining you. You could have told the truth without making me a monster. At the time, I wasn't sure I could. She absorbed that. Her face showed hurt, then anger, then something like reluctant recognition. So you let me be the monster alone, she said. I let you be the only narrator. That was convenient. It was cowardly. Susan finally sat again. For several seconds, we listened to the clock. I still don't want you there, she said. I know. I don't think I can watch her dance with you. I might not get a dance. You would. You're planning a scene that no one has offered me. Because everyone knows how it works. That's the problem. Everyone knows what I will give, what you will feel, what Claire will choose. No one asks. What would you do if she invited you? Go. Susan's head snapped up. I would attend, I said. I would be civil to you and Graham. I would not corner you, mention our marriage, make a speech about forgiveness, or throw flowers. You're mocking me again, a little. And if I stayed home? I would be sorry, but you'd go. Yes. Her face changed, not rage, fear. It was the first time I understood that she had expected my restraint to protect her forever, even after our marriage ended. If you do that, she said, you're choosing yourself over peace. No, I'm choosing not to make Claire responsible for your decision. She'll blame me. That would be between you and her. You make it sound so easy. It isn't easy. It's simply yours. Susan stood, picked up her purse, and walked toward the front hall. At the door, she paused. I did not know Claire asked you for that much, she said. I said nothing. She told me you had offered. She told Aaron something similar. Susan looked toward the kitchen. That doesn't make her a liar. I didn't call her one. She's under pressure. I know. You could still help. I will help my daughter. I won't help erase her father. Susan opened the door. Outside, she stopped beside the mailbox again. This time, she lifted the metal box with both hands, shifted it slightly on the post, and looked toward me. There, she said. That's better? It needs screws. Then use the ones you bought. I watched her drive away, then went to the garage for my drill. The box took 4 minutes to straighten. For once, fixing the visible part did not make me feel useful. It only made the whole thing look as though it had never leaned at all. I put the drill away, washed the dust from my hands, and called Claire. Her voicemail answered after 4 rings. You've reached Claire. Leave me something useful. The recording was 5 years old. I remembered helping her choose the wording. She had recorded 7 versions before deciding the first one sounded most like her. The beep came. Hi, Claire. Your mother came by. I'm not calling to report what she said or make you take responsibility for it. I'm calling because Michael was right about something, which I hope you appreciate, because I'll deny it if asked. I stopped. Voicemails had always made me sound like a man reading evacuation instructions. I'm hurt, I said. Not just angry. I imagine being at your wedding. I imagine seeing you before the ceremony and probably saying the wrong thing because every useful sentence would disappear from my head. I imagine dancing with you, if that's something you wanted. Finding out you could remove me and still expect me to pay made me feel like I had confused being needed with being loved. My throat tightened. I nearly ended the message. I know you love me. I also know I helped build this arrangement. I made money and favors easier than conversations. I'm sorry for that. I'm still not paying, and I'm still not fixing the arch. But I don't want you to mistake my boundary for indifference. I care enough that this hurts. The phone allowed me 2 more seconds before announcing that my message had been saved. I stood in the front hall, embarrassed in an empty house. Claire did not call back. At 11 that night, she sent a text. I listened. Nothing else followed. I typed several answers before settling on, "Thank you." She reacted with a heart, then removed it. The small gray symbol appeared and disappeared so quickly I might have imagined it. After that, our family settled into a tense new efficiency. Wedding information reached me sideways. Michael mentioned that the string quartet had been canceled. Aaron told me, during a brief call about a loose outlet in their condo, that the flower budget had been cut almost in half. Susan mailed me a birthday card 3 weeks early, which I interpreted as either organization or a warning. Claire and I exchanged practical messages. She asked for my recipe for the mustard glaze I used on salmon. I sent it. I asked whether the new tires were riding smoothly. She said yes. Neither of us mentioned the wedding. Sunday dinners became Michael and me, then Michael, Aaron, and me, then no one when Michael traveled to Pittsburgh for work, and Aaron apparently decided a second solo appearance would qualify as a political statement. I cooked less food. That was harder than it should have been. My refrigerator had spent years holding meals intended for people who did not live in my house. Once the containers disappeared, the shelves looked accusatory. I bought a smaller carton of milk and stood in the dairy aisle holding it like evidence of decline. Michael's birthday forced all of us back into one room. He chose Bellini's, an Italian restaurant where the portions were large enough to require structural support. He reserved a round table for 6 and sent a group message saying attendance was mandatory unless someone could produce a doctor's note or proof of international travel. When I arrived, Claire and Aaron were already seated. Claire wore a rust-colored dress and small gold earrings I had given her after graduate school. Aaron stood to shake my hand, then seemed to reconsider and hug me instead. It was brief and awkward, but intentional. Claire gave me a careful smile. "Hi, Dad." "Hi." Susan and Graham arrived together. She wore black, not the blue jacket. Graham carried a gift bag in one hand and guided her through the restaurant with the other against her back, though she knew where the table was. Michael came last to his own birthday dinner. "I wanted everyone settled before I arrived," he said, taking the empty chair between me and Graham. "You wanted to make sure we came," Claire said. "That too." He looked around the table. "If anyone discusses wedding money, divorce, emotional safety, or the definition of unconditional love, they have to pay for my dinner." "Your dinner was already on me," I said. "Then you're not allowed to discuss anything." The server appeared before Michael could establish further regulations. We ordered drinks and enough appetizers to distract ourselves. For 20 minutes, the evening almost worked. Michael told us about a bank employee who had submitted a security ticket because his wireless mouse had stopped communicating with the network. Aaron described a patient who refused every therapeutic exercise but performed perfect squats to retrieve dropped candy. Susan complained that Graham had bought a leaf blower powerful enough to move lawn furniture. "It has settings," Graham said. "One is hurricane," she replied. Claire laughed, and I saw the version of us that could still exist when no one demanded that the past leave the table. Then Graham asked about the centerpieces. Claire's shoulders shifted. "The candles came," she said. "Some of the glass cylinders were broken, but they are replacing them." "Where are you storing everything?" Michael asked. "Mom's garage." "My side of the garage," Graham said. "It was the only clear space," Susan replied. "It was clear because my car goes there." "You haven't put that car in the garage since April. That is not the point." Aaron reached for bread. "We'll move everything to Ashford the morning before," Claire said. "How much is everything?" Susan asked. 14 boxes, maybe 16 when the linens arrive." Graham shook his head. "Won't fit in Aaron's car." "We know." "What about renting a van?" Michael asked. "They charge by the mile," Claire said. "And there's a cleaning fee." Graham turned toward me. "Daniel has the truck." I had a 12-year-old pickup I used for lumber, mulch, and the occasional household emergency Claire had already organized before asking. Every face at the table changed slightly. Claire looked down at her water. "I didn't ask him," she said. "You shouldn't have to," Graham said. Michael put both hands flat on the table. "Birthday rule? No one is discussing money." I said emotional safety too. "This is transportation," Graham said. "Are ordinary subjects prohibited now?" "Only the ones you say like that." The server arrived with our meals and sensed correctly that no one wanted grated cheese enough to prolong her presence. Conversation broke apart while plates were arranged. I cut into my veal. Across the table, Claire moved one mushroom from one side of her plate to the other. "I can rent the van," Aaron said quietly. "That's stupid," Graham said. Aaron looked up. "It's $90. It's still stupid when there's a truck sitting in Daniel's driveway." "It's not our truck." Graham leaned back as if Aaron had made an unexpectedly personal remark. Susan looked at me. "Would it be so difficult? The venue is an hour away. You've driven farther for less." That was my decision. Claire put down her fork. "Can we not do this?" "I'm simply asking your father a question," Susan said. "No, you're asking so I don't have to." Michael lifted his wine. "Personal growth. On my birthday, my gift has arrived." Nobody laughed. Claire met my eyes. "Dad, would you be willing to take the boxes to Ashford?" "When?" "The morning of the 17th. We'd load them the night before." "And unload them where?" "The event coordinator would show you. Will you be there?" "Yes." "Aaron and I both will." "And afterward, I drive home." Her face tightened. "That's generally how dropping something off works." I nodded. "No." Graham made a sound of disbelief. Claire kept looking at me. "Can I ask why?" "You know why." "I want to hear you say it." "I'm not doing setup work for a wedding I've been excluded from." "It's not setup work. It's driving, with loading and unloading on both ends." "For God's sake," Graham said. "I'll help load. That doesn't change the destination." Susan leaned toward me. You just gave a speech about not withdrawing. I called my daughter and told her I love her. That is not the same as volunteering my truck. So, this is how it's going to be, Graham asked. Every favor denied until she gives you your way? Aaron set down his knife. Graham, stop! The table went still. Graham turned slowly. Excuse me? She asked. He answered. You're defending this? I'm saying we can rent a van. You shouldn't have to waste money because he's making a point. It's our wedding. We have to transport our things. Claire stared at Aaron. You told me renting a van was ridiculous. I said it was annoying. You said we could ask my dad. I said you could ask. You did. And now? And now he said no. Her voice dropped. You agree with him. I agree that no is an answer. Susan looked between them. This is exactly what Daniel does. He sits quietly while everyone else fights around him. I place my napkin beside my plate. You brought up the truck, because any decent father would offer. Then why ask? Michael groaned. I'm changing my birthday. The server approached with a lit candle and a piece of tiramisu. She had gathered several co-workers behind her and was already singing. No one at the table was prepared. We joined in anyway. Susan sang too loudly. Graham did not sing at all. Claire's voice cracked on the second line, and Aaron stared at the candle. I clapped when everyone else clapped. Michael blew out the flame. What did you wish for? I asked. Different parents. You only get one wish, Susan said. That's why I included all of you. The joke rescued us long enough to finish dinner. Outside, under the yellow parking lot lights, we separated with careful hugs. Susan and Graham left first. Aaron walked ahead to bring their car around while Claire waited near the curb. I stood beside her. You could have told me privately, she said. You asked me at dinner, because Graham pushed it. You didn't have to. I was trying to prove I can ask you for things without being accused of using you. You can ask, but you'll say no. Sometimes. She crossed her arms against the cool air. You've never said no before. I know. That isn't comforting. It shouldn't be frightening either. Aaron's headlights appeared at the edge of the lot. Claire looked toward them. He's different with me since he talked to you. I haven't asked him to be. You didn't have to. You make people feel like agreeing with you is the only rational position. I don't think he agrees with me about everything. You don't know what he thinks. Neither do you, apparently. Her face closed. I had done it again. Found the sentence that could win and used it before deciding what victory would cost. Claire, I said. She opened the passenger door. I'll rent the van, she said. Then nobody owes anybody anything. She got in before I could tell her that owing nothing was not the same as having nothing to give. Aaron's car disappeared at the end of the lot. I stood beside my truck while the restaurant staff stacked chairs behind the windows. Michael came up carrying the gift bag Graham had brought him. You know, he said, most people give cash. I paid for dinner. I was talking about the emotional damage. That's a long-term investment. He leaned against the truck. You didn't have to say the thing about her not knowing what Aaron thinks. I know. She did ask for it. That doesn't mean I had to deliver. Michael nodded. That might be the second useful thing you've said. Your birthday is over. You can leave. He hugged me, then walked toward his car with the gift bag swinging against his leg. Before I started the engine, I called Claire. She didn't answer. I'm sorry for what I said about Aaron. I told her voicemail. It was intended to hurt you, and it did nothing useful. I meant the no about the truck. I don't mean that your marriage is something I get to judge because we're angry with each other. I stopped there. An apology followed by an essay was usually an argument wearing clean clothes. Aaron called the next afternoon. I'm not trying to put you in the middle, he said. I'm not in the middle. I'm several miles outside the venue. He didn't laugh. I heard you left Claire a message. That was for Claire. I know. She played it for me. I sat down at the kitchen table. Why? I think she wanted me to hear you apologize. Did she play the truck portion too? Yes. Then it was a complete performance. She's hurt. You've mentioned that. Because every time she's hurt, you answer like I'm reporting weather. What would you prefer? I don't know. That makes two of us, he breathed out. I could picture him removing his glasses and pressing his fingers to the bridge of his nose. He did that whenever he wanted 10 seconds without appearing to ask for them. She thinks you're changing the rules after she built her life around them, he said. I looked at the herb clock. I didn't know there were rules. That doesn't mean there weren't. No, it means I wasn't the only one following them. He was quiet. Claire said, You always help, he continued. money, repairs, moving things. She took it for granted, but not because she thought you were worthless. She thought that was how you wanted to be her father. There was enough truth in that to remove my defenses. It was, I said. Then from her side, you stopped being her father the minute she made a decision you hated. I stopped being her truck. You know that isn't how she sees it. I'm starting to. Outside, a waste collection truck groaned around the cul-de-sac. I watched a blue recycling bin tip, shake, and return to the pavement with its lid open. How do you see it? I asked. I don't know anymore. Careful. That answer worries people. She told me you understood the arrangement. You didn't. She told me you offered to pay. You didn't. I don't think she lied exactly. That is a generous adverb. She believed both things would become true. I rubbed my forehead. That was Claire. Not dishonest in the ordinary sense. She arranged the emotional furniture before anyone arrived, then acted surprised when they noticed there was nowhere else to sit. Did you know Susan had said she wouldn't come? I asked. Yes. And you agreed I should be excluded. I agreed that we shouldn't start our marriage with a family explosion. How's that going? That sounded like Claire. She came by honestly. Aaron gave a tired laugh. I thought you would be okay, he said. That's the part I don't feel good about. Why would I be okay? Because you always look okay. I let that sit. I'm trying to stop treating that as proof, he added. Don't turn me into a test of your relationship. I'm not. You're calling your fiancé's father to discuss things she said privately. She played you my voicemail. Fair point. I don't want to fight with her. Then talk to her, not me. I am talking to her. We keep having the same conversation. Welcome to family. He was quiet again. I rented the van, he said. $90, $107 with the insurance. Civilization survives. I also canceled the uplighting. I'm sorry. I don't know what that is. Colored lights aimed at walls, then I'm relieved. He laughed properly that time. We ended the call without discussing Susan, the guest list, or whether he thought I should attend. It was the most respectful conversation anyone had offered me all week, partly because neither of us got what we wanted. The wedding moved toward us through ordinary evidence. A package intended for Claire arrived at my house because an online store still had my address saved from when she lived with me between apartments. It contained 120 cream-colored place cards. I drove it to her condo and left it with the front desk. A tailor I had used for years called to ask whether I needed my dark suit adjusted for the big day. I told him I did not. Susan removed me from a group message about the rehearsal dinner, then added me back 4 minutes later and wrote, "Sorry, wrong Daniel." There was no other Daniel in the family. Michael sent me a photograph of himself wearing the charcoal suit Claire had chosen for him. He looked like a man being interviewed for a job he did not want. Too tight? He asked. At the shoulders, I replied. Claire says it's modern. So is discomfort. He reacted with the fork and knife picture from the dinner invitation. My birthday fell on a Monday. I planned to spend it replacing 2 loose boards on the back deck and ordering Chinese food. At 9 in the morning, Michael appeared with a box of pastries. At noon, Russ from the hardware store called and sang the entire birthday song in a voice that suggested machinery was failing. At 4, Aaron texted to ask if I would be home at 6. They arrived together. Claire carried a small chocolate cake. Aaron had a grocery bag with cartons of Chinese food, including the Singapore noodles I always ordered, and the eggplant dish Claire disliked because she claimed it had the texture of an apology. Michael came 10 minutes later with beer and a new mailbox flag. "What's wrong with the old one?" I asked. "It squeaks." "It's supposed to move, not perform. It cost $8. Accept love." We ate around the kitchen table. Claire asked about the deck boards. I asked about her patience. Aaron described an argument he'd had with the bakery over buttercream. Michael drank 2 beers and kept the conversation moving whenever it approached dangerous ground. The cake had 64 candles in the box, but Claire used 6. "Fire code," she said. "I appreciate your restraint." She lit them and stood back. I blew them out. "What did you wish for?" Michael asked. "Different children." "You used that joke already." "I'm 64. Repetition is now a medical accommodation." Claire smiled. After dinner, Aaron and Michael took trash to the outside bin. Claire remained at the table, collecting crumbs with the side of her hand. "The rented arch came," she said. "How is it?" "Beige." "That's a dependable color." It looks like two ladders holding hands. I tried not to picture it. We're covering it with greenery, she continued. Less than the original plan. I'm sure it will look good. You don't have to say that. I mean it. She pushed the crumbs into her palm and carried them to the sink. The invitations went out, she said, with her back to me. I already knew. The place cards had told me we were past that point, but hearing it was different. All right, I didn't send you one. I assumed. You hate assumptions. This one had evidence. She turned around. I kept thinking I should. Why didn't you? Because sending it would mean deciding. You have decided. No. I decided what happens if everything stays the same. That's still a decision. Her eyes flashed. You always do that. You turn what I say into the thing that hurts most. I asked a question. You corrected my answer. I'm sorry. She folded her arms. Are you? Yes. The back door opened and Aaron came in carrying the empty beer bottles. Michael followed with the new mailbox flag still in its packaging. Claire picked up her purse. We should go. Aaron looked between us. Everything okay? Fine, she said. No one in the room believed her. She hugged me before leaving. The gesture was stiff at first, then tightened for one unexpected second. I lifted a hand to the back of her shoulder, and she stepped away. Happy birthday, Dad. Thank you for coming. After they left, Michael installed the new flag under the porch light while I held a flashlight. You want to tell me what happened in there? He asked. No. Healthy. We had a conversation. Did either of you listen? Parts. Progress. The next morning, I found a cream envelope in the mailbox beneath the flag. For a moment, I thought Claire had returned with an invitation. The envelope contained a card printed with the Ashford crest and instructions for viewing the ceremony online. Across the bottom, in elegant gray lettering, it said, "We hope you can join us virtually." My name had been written on the front in Claire's hand. I carried the card inside and placed it beside the clean plastic container she had returned weeks earlier. Then I realized I had taken the container from the cabinet without knowing why. I put the container away again. The viewing card remained on the counter. For the rest of the morning, I found reasons to walk past it. I made coffee, wiped a surface that was already clean, carried a spoon from the dishwasher to the drawer, one item at a time. The card did not improve with distance. At noon, I turned it face down. At 1:15, I turned it back. Claire had addressed the envelope herself. That mattered. It also made the message worse. An automated system had not mistaken me for an elderly relative in Arizona. My daughter had written my name, sealed the envelope, and placed it in the mail, knowing I lived 40 minutes from the room I was being invited to watch on a screen. I didn't call her. Silence had become suspect, but not every quiet moment was strategy. Sometimes a person said nothing, because everything available was too sharp. The card stayed on the counter for 9 days. Claire arrived on the 10th evening wearing jeans, a gray sweater, and no makeup. She had changed after work. The absence of scrubs made the visit feel less temporary. When I opened the door, she held up one hand. I'm not asking for money, transportation, carpentry, food, or a container. That covers most of my services. Can I come in? I moved aside. She walked to the kitchen and saw the viewing card immediately. You got it. The mail remains reliable. I wasn't sure if you'd open it. My curiosity defeated my instincts. Claire set her purse on the familiar chair. Then she noticed the plastic container was gone. You put it away. I did. That seems healthy. I considered framing it. She gave me a tired look. Can we get through one conversation without you turning everything into a line? Probably. I've never tried. I'm serious. So am I. She pulled out a chair but remained standing behind it. I talked to Mom. All right, and Aaron, and Graham, which was less productive. That tracks. Dad. Sorry. She watched me for a second, making sure the apology was real enough to continue. I want to offer you something, she said. I need you to listen to the entire thing before you answer. Is there a slideshow? No. Then I'm ready. Her mouth tightened. I sat across from the chair she wasn't using. After a moment, she sat too. The guest count is final, she said. But 2 people canceled. Aaron's cousin has a work conference, and his wife isn't coming without him. I'm sorry to hear about the conference. Please. I folded my hands on the table. Go ahead. The venue can add you to the reception. The reception? After dinner. I waited. You could come around 8:30, she continued. The dancing starts at 9. We'd put you at table 11 with some people from my clinic. You've met Janet. I don't believe I have. You met her at my graduation dinner 12 years ago. She's very friendly. That's useful. You said you'd listen, I nodded. Claire took a breath. There would have to be some boundaries. Of course. You couldn't approach Mom. If you happen to be in the same area, just give her space. Graham doesn't want any direct conversation. Does Graham control the airspace? Dad. I'm listening. There wouldn't be formal family photographs at that point. Those happen before dinner. But the photographer stays until 10, so we could take one separately. You and me. And Aaron, if you want. No Michael? We could find him. If he hasn't been moved to another table. She gripped the edge of the chair. Do you want me to keep going? Yes. The speeches will already be done. And the parent dances. There it was. I looked at the herb clock above her shoulder. Rosemary at 3, Basil at 6. Who are you dancing with? I asked. Graham. The kitchen grew very still. That was decided before lunch? I asked. Before I asked you for the money, yes. And who was walking you down the aisle? Graham and Mom? Together. Yes. I nodded once. Claire's voice softened. He has been part of my life for a long time. I know. He supported Mom. He helped me when things were hard. When I was, distant. That's true. Her shoulders lowered slightly, perhaps because I hadn't argued. I'm not trying to replace you, she said. You're inviting me after the replacement ceremony. She closed her eyes. That is exactly the kind of sentence I asked you not to use. Because it's cruel. Because it makes everything I'm trying to do sound disgusting. What are you trying to do? Get you into the room. After the ceremony, dinner, photographs, speeches, and the dance, you said you wanted a chair. I was speaking figuratively. Well, I found you one. I leaned back. Claire reached into her purse and removed a cream envelope. This one had my name on it too, written in the same careful hand. She placed it between us. I fought for this, she said. The sentence stopped me. With whom? Everyone. Aaron wanted me invited. Yes. Susan didn't. No. Graham? She laughed without humor. Graham said if you came, he would take Mom home before the dancing. But the dancing is when I'm allowed to arrive. I know. So his threat is to remove the person he claims to be protecting from the danger she won't be present for. Do you want the invitation, or do you want to cross-examine the logic? I'm trying to understand what you fought for. Her eyes filled. You, she said. I fought for you. The answer hurt more than if she had yelled. I looked at the envelope. I believed her. That was the terrible part. In the family, Claire understood. Getting me 90 minutes at the edge of her wedding had required courage. She had argued with her mother, absorbed Graham's outrage, and probably negotiated with Aaron until they were both exhausted. She had brought me the result, expecting me to recognize the sacrifice. I did recognize it. I also recognized myself in her. She had found the narrowest possible solution to a human problem and arrived ready to defend its measurements. I'm grateful you tried, I said. But I'm not coming under those terms. Her face emptied. You haven't even opened the invitation. I heard it. No, you heard the restrictions. You didn't hear that I want you there, do you? Yes, at 8:30. That's what I can offer. That's what you're willing to offer. She stood. Do you have any idea what Mom said when I told her? I can imagine. No, you can't. She cried for an hour. Graham accused me of rewarding you for withholding money. Aaron and I had another fight. I have barely slept. I came here anyway, and you're rejecting me because the chair is at the wrong table. I'm rejecting an invitation that requires me to arrive after every moment a father would ordinarily be part of. You don't get to demand an ordinary father's place after being absent for years. I wasn't absent. You were around. That is not the same thing. I took that without answering. She pressed both palms to the table. I needed you after the divorce. You acted like because I was an adult I should understand. You never told me you missed Mom. You never told me you missed us. You bought me a new laptop and fixed the brakes on my car. I thought that was helping. I wanted you to say you were falling apart. I didn't know how. And now I'm supposed to give you the aisle and the dance because you finally learned the word hurt. No. Then what do you want? I looked at my daughter. I want you to invite me as a person you're glad to have there, not a problem being managed. I am glad to have you there. Then invite me to the wedding. I am, to the end of it. It's the part I can make work. By hiding me after the formal photographs and seating me with a woman I met during the first Obama administration, Janet voted for McCain. That's not the important detail. She stared at me, and against all reason, a small laugh escaped her. It broke into something closer to a sob. She turned away, pressing her fingers beneath her eyes. I stood but didn't touch her. I love you, I said. Don't say that right before you refuse. It's still true. Love is not just what you feel when you're alone, Dad. I know. You taught me that. She turned back. Then come. I won't attend as a problem everyone has agreed to tolerate. There it is. Your dignity. Yes. You choose it every time. No. For years I chose being useful because I was afraid dignity would cost me you. And now I know usefulness didn't keep you. Her face hardened. She picked up the envelope but stopped before putting it away. If you refuse this, you don't get to tell people I didn't invite you. I won't campaign against you. That isn't what I said. No, you want the invitation to change what happened. It doesn't. I am trying to change what happens. Then change it. I can't fix everything. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you not to call Scraps a seat at the table. She shoved the envelope back into her purse. You care more about being right than seeing me get married. The sentence landed because part of it might have been true. I'm going to miss your wedding, I said. There is nothing right about that. She stood in the doorway for a moment, waiting for me to rescue both of us from the decision. I didn't. When the door closed behind her, the kitchen remained exactly as we had left it. The viewing card lay on the counter. I picked it up and entered the web address into my laptop. A page appeared with a photograph of Claire and Aaron standing beneath trees, their foreheads touching. Below it, a clock counted down to the ceremony, 13 days, 17 hours, 42 minutes. I closed the laptop. It was the first time I understood that keeping my dignity would not make the loss feel dignified. The countdown became a second clock in my house. I didn't leave the page open, but I knew it was there. Every time I sat at the laptop, I was aware that somewhere behind my email and the weather forecast, numbers were falling toward a day that would happen whether I was ready or not. Michael called the morning after Claire's visit. She says she invited you. She offered me the last 90 minutes. She left that part out. People trim stories to fit the available sympathy. What were the conditions? I told him. He listened without interrupting, which was unusual enough that I checked the phone twice. When I finished, he said, Table 11? With Janet. Who's Janet? She voted for McCain. What? I don't know who she is. Michael exhaled. That is a terrible invitation. Yes. You're still going to regret not taking it. Yes. That stopped him. You could change your mind, he said. So could Claire. She thinks she already did. I know. And you don't think it counts. I think it counts. I also think it asks me to accept the family's judgment, that my presence is shameful, as long as I enter late enough not to disturb the photographs. That was a lot of words. I've had time. He was quiet. I don't want to be the person who tells you to go, he said. I also don't want to be the person sitting there knowing you're 40 minutes away. You'll be there for your sister. Who'll be there for you? I'm 64, Michael. That isn't an answer. It's the one I have. He muttered something I didn't hear. Go to the wedding, I said. Walk your mother to her seat. Smile in the photographs. Dance badly. I dance fine. You dance with your mouth open? How would you know? I was at your cousin Elena's wedding. That was an allergic reaction. To rhythm? He laughed, but only for a second. I'm not reporting everything back to you, he said. I haven't asked. I know. That's somehow worse. After we hung up, I went outside and replaced the loose deck boards. The first board came up cleanly. The second had rusted screws that stripped under the drill. I worked at it for nearly an hour, growing angrier at a piece of pressure-treated pine because it was safer than being angry at my daughter. When the screw finally broke, I laughed. Mr. Pell appeared at the fence. You all right? He asked. Perfect. You don't look perfect. The board and I had a disagreement. Board win, temporary advantage. He disappeared and returned with an impact driver. I have tools, I said. You have the wrong tool. That has never stopped me before. Ed climbed through the gate without waiting for permission. Together, we removed the board in 5 minutes. He looked at the broken screw. Family? He asked. I stared at him. What? You've been fixing things outside for 2 weeks, either family or termites. Family, he nodded. Termites are simpler. We installed the new board. He accepted a beer afterward and sat with me on the back steps. Ed was 70, a retired postal carrier, and had been divorced twice from the same woman. His third marriage was to someone else, which he described as proof I could learn if the tuition was high enough. "My daughter's getting married," I said. "Congratulations. I'm not invited." He took a drink. "That so?" "She asked me to pay for it." His eyebrows rose. I said no. "Seems efficient. It hasn't been." Ed looked toward his yard. His wind chimes moved in the light breeze without making enough sound to justify themselves. "Why aren't you invited? My former wife won't attend if I do." "Which one?" "I only have one." Showing off. I smiled. "She says being around me is emotionally unsafe." "You hit her?" "No." "Threaten her?" "No." "Cheat?" "No." "Then I'm out of questions suitable for a back porch." I was difficult to be married to. "Everybody is." I withdrew. "That'll do damage." "Yes." He drank again. "You going to crash it?" "No." "Good. Nobody looks dignified being removed from a wedding. I'm not trying to ruin anything. Didn't say you were." We sat in silence. Before he left, Ed handed me the impact driver. "Keep it till after the wedding." "I don't need it. You might find more boards." He climbed back through the gate. The following evening, Aaron appeared at my door with no food, tools, or broken objects. That made him the first person to visit me in weeks without a practical pretext. "I was nearby," he said. "You live 25 minutes away." "I was nearby 25 minutes ago." I let him in. He took the chair Claire usually used and declined coffee. His glasses were smudged, and there was a small red mark where he'd been rubbing the bridge of his nose. "She told you I refused," I said. "Yes?" "Did she tell you the invitation?" "Yes." "Good." He leaned forward with his elbows on his knees. "I wanted you there from the beginning, but not enough to say so." His eyes lifted. "That sounded harsher than I meant," I said. "No, it's accurate. Accuracy is not honesty, according to my children. Michael says that. He paid somebody." Aaron smiled faintly. "I believed Claire when she said your attendance would cause a crisis," he said. "I thought you had agreed to stay away. Then after lunch, everything got clearer, complicated. No, clearer, not easier." I waited. "She kept saying you'd pay once you calmed down," he continued. "Then she said you'd fix the arch because you like woodworking. Then the truck. She wasn't trying to use you the way it sounds. How was she trying to use me?" He looked at his hands. "She thought those things were proof that you were still her dad. And saying yes would prove it. Yes. While inviting me would prove something else to Susan. Yes. She has designed a useful arrangement." "I know." There was no satisfaction in hearing him say it. "Are you and Claire all right?" I asked. "We're getting married in 11 days. That wasn't my question. It's the answer everyone wants. What do you want?" He looked toward the front window. The mailbox stood straight beneath the porch light. "I want to marry her," he said. "I don't want our first major decision to become the template for every decision after it. That sounds like something you should tell her. I have. And she says I'm judging her family from the outside." "You are? So that means I'm wrong?" "No. It means you should be careful." He sat back. "You think I should let it go. I think you shouldn't use me as evidence in an argument about your marriage. I'm not objective. I'm not asking you to be. You came here because you want me to say Claire is repeating a pattern." His face changed. "Is she? I don't know." "You do know. I know what she's doing to me. You have to decide what she's doing with you." Aaron removed his glasses and cleaned them with the hem of his shirt. "I give in a lot," he said. "That can look like kindness from the inside." "You would know." "Yes." He put his glasses back on. "I asked her to invite you to the whole wedding," he said. "She said she couldn't survive another fight with Susan this close to the ceremony, so she offered the reception. I didn't know about table 11. Janet is apparently delightful." "She is, actually." That startled a laugh out of me. Aaron looked tired but relieved to hear it. "Would you come if Claire called right now and invited you to everything?" he asked. "Yes." The answer came without thought. "And the money?" "No." He nodded. "So it was never about forcing an invitation. I would still like the invitation. That isn't what I meant, I know." At the door, he paused. "Are you going to watch the live stream?" "I haven't decided. She'll wonder. Would she want to know?" She addressed the card. That could mean guilt. It could mean hope. After he left, I turned the viewing card face down again. Susan called 2 days before the rehearsal. Her tone was formal. I heard you rejected Claire's compromise. Yes. She made more effort than you know. I know it cost her. Then why couldn't you accept it? Because gratitude doesn't require agreement. You'd rather sit home. No, you chose it, after she chose the terms. Susan sighed. You always find the step before yours. That doesn't mean mine isn't real. What are you doing on the 18th? I don't know. She doesn't need to picture you alone. Then don't describe me that way. You will be alone. Will that make it easier for you? She didn't answer. I looked at the viewing card. Susan, are you happy I won't be there? Another silence. I'm relieved, she said. Thank you for telling the truth. I'm not proud of it. That wasn't the question. No, I'm not happy. Her voice had softened. I don't want her wedding to hurt you, she said. You only want the version where it does not frighten you. Yes. The honesty took the fight out of me. I hope you have a good day, I said. I hope you watch. Why? So, at least she can believe you saw her. The morning of the wedding, Michael knocked at 8:30 wearing black pants, a white undershirt, and one sock. I lost the other one, he said. In the car, I changed here so I wouldn't spill coffee on my shirt. You arrived with one sock. I was carrying them. We found the missing sock inside his garment bag. I made coffee while he dressed in the guest room. He emerged in the charcoal suit, fighting with his tie. Too tight at the shoulders, I said. We covered that. I tied the knot for him. He watched my hands. You could still come, he said. No, I hate this. So do I. Claire's barely speaking. To you, to anybody. Mom keeps saying today is about joy, which makes everyone look like hostages. I adjusted his collar. Don't spend the day being angry for me. I can multitask. Be her brother. He looked at me. What are you going to do? Replace another deck board. There are no bad boards left. I'll find one. He hugged me, careful of his suit. At the door, he turned. If she asks whether you watched, what do I say? Tell her you don't know. But will you? I don't know. He left at 9:15. At 3:58, I sat alone at the kitchen table with my laptop closed. At 3:59, I opened it. The live stream page showed the front of a brick hall lined with white flowers. The rented arch stood beneath tall windows, two beige ladders holding hands under enough greenery to hide the truth. The countdown reached 10 seconds. I turned up the sound. The numbers disappeared. For several seconds, nothing happened. The camera showed the arch, 6 rows of cream-colored chairs, and the backs of people's heads. Someone near the microphone whispered, "Is it on?" A second voice said, "I think so," with the confidence of a person who had no idea. Then music began. Not the string quartet. A piano recording came through the speakers, slightly too loud. Guests shifted in their seats. One woman near the aisle checked her phone and tucked it beneath her purse when the camera caught her. I leaned closer to the screen. Aaron entered from the right with his best man. He wore a dark blue suit and the expression of someone trying to breathe normally under observation. He adjusted his glasses, looked down the aisle, and rubbed his thumb against his palm. Michael appeared next. The charcoal suit was still too tight across his shoulders. He escorted Susan to the front row. She wore a deep green dress I had never seen. Her hand rested on his arm, and she smiled at people as she passed. At the end of the aisle, she touched Michael's cheek. Graham followed behind them. He looked directly at the camera for half a second, though I was sure he was checking his position rather than looking at me. The music changed. Everyone stood. The camera shifted toward the doors at the back of the hall. The picture blurred, corrected itself, and found Claire. She stood between Susan and Graham. Her dress was simple compared with the numbers on the spreadsheet. Long sleeves, a narrow waist, no crystals or elaborate lace. Her hair was pinned low at the back of her neck. She carried white flowers with eucalyptus spilling down one side. For one irrational moment, I thought someone had made a mistake. That woman could not be my daughter because my daughter was 8, then 16, then 34, and I had not seen the instant when one version replaced the next. The screen compressed everything into a small rectangle. Susan on one side, Graham on the other, Claire moving toward a life I had helped begin, but had no place in witnessing, except through borrowed pixels. She smiled when she saw Aaron. That saved me. Whatever else the wedding meant, she wanted to reach the man waiting at the end of the aisle. Aaron's face broke open. He laughed once and wiped beneath his glasses. Susan kissed Claire's cheek. Graham hugged her with both arms. Then they placed her hand in Aaron's. The officiant was a woman with silver hair and a warm voice. She welcomed everyone to the gathering of two families who had shaped, supported, and sustained Claire and Aaron. I nearly closed the laptop. Instead, I turned the volume down one level. The ceremony was beautiful. That was the hardest possible outcome. No one objected, no flowers collapsed. Susan did not become anxious enough to leave. Graham did not say anything offensive. The rented arch remained upright. Sunlight from the tall windows moved across the brick wall behind them, and Claire's dress caught the light whenever she turned. Aaron's vows were tender and specific. He promised to stop loading the dishwasher like a raccoon escaping a restaurant, to tell Claire when he was worried instead of becoming excessively agreeable, and to remember that peace was not the same thing as silence. Claire laughed at the first promise. She didn't laugh at the last. Her vows were less humorous. She said Aaron made her feel chosen without requiring her to earn it. She promised to listen before solving, to protect their home without closing its doors, and to become braver about difficult truths. Her voice shook on the word braver. I sat very still. There are moments when a sentence can be meant for one person and still strike another. I did not know whether Claire had written those words before our fight, or because of it. I decided the answer belonged to her marriage, not me. When the officiant asked for the rings, Michael patted both pockets with sudden alarm. The best man whispered something. Michael looked offended and pointed at him. The rings appeared from the best man's inside pocket, and a ripple of laughter moved through the room. I laughed too. No one heard me. Claire and Aaron exchanged rings. The officiant pronounced them married. They kissed beneath the beige arch, which the greenery had transformed into something almost graceful. Everyone stood and applauded. I stood with them. It was instinctive. My chair scraped the kitchen floor, and for a few seconds, I was a man applauding a laptop in an empty house. Claire and Aaron walked back down the aisle. As they passed the camera, Claire looked toward it. Maybe she was checking the lens. Maybe she had seen the red light. Maybe she was looking at everyone who could not attend. Her eyes held the camera for less than a second. Then she was gone. The broadcast remained on while guests filed out. I watched Michael stop to speak to a woman I assumed was Janet. Susan and Graham moved slowly up the aisle, accepting congratulations. Susan looked relaxed, relieved, as she had said. At the bottom of the screen, a message appeared. The ceremony has concluded. Thank you for joining us. The feed ended. My reflection replaced the wedding. I sat back down. The house made its usual sounds: refrigerator, air vent, a branch brushing the siding near the guest room. Nothing understood that my daughter had just married. I closed the laptop and went to the garage. Ed's impact driver lay on the workbench. The deck no longer had any damaged boards, so I removed a loose hinge from the cabinet over the utility sink. The hinge did not need an impact driver. I used it anyway. The screw went through the soft wood and spun uselessly. Wrong tool, I said aloud. I removed it, filled the hole with 2 wooden toothpicks and glue, then reattached the hinge by hand. At 6:30, someone knocked on the side door. Ed stood there holding a paper plate covered with foil. My wife made too many stuffed peppers, he said. You don't have a wife. My girlfriend made too many stuffed peppers. Why did you call her your wife? She's been staying over. At our age, terminology becomes administrative. He handed me the plate. You watch it? Yes, how was it? Beautiful. He nodded as if that explained the food. You want a beer? No, you want me to leave? Yes. Good. I didn't bring enough peppers for 2. He walked back across the lawn. I ate 1 stuffed pepper standing at the counter. It contained rice, sausage, tomatoes, and enough garlic to discourage intimacy. It was excellent. At 7, I picked up my phone. I had received photographs in the family group message: Claire and Aaron under the arch, Michael between Susan and Graham, a wide shot of the ceremony showing every chair. I enlarged the wide shot before I could stop myself. There was no empty chair where I should have been. The room had been arranged perfectly without me. I opened my conversation with Claire. You looked beautiful, I wrote. Aaron looked terrified in the correct way. Your vows were lovely. Congratulations to both of you. I love you. I read it 3 times. Then I added, I watched every minute. I sent it. The message showed, delivered, then nothing. At 8:20, Michael called. Music thudded in the background. You okay? He shouted. Are you calling from the dance floor? Hallway. Go back inside. I wanted to check. I'm fine. You're not. I'm not going to discuss emotional nuance while someone plays September through your shirt pocket. Michael pushed through a door, and the music softened. Better? Marginally. They did the speeches. I assumed they would. Aaron's dad was funny. Mom cried. Graham talked for 11 minutes. That sounds restrained. He said Claire taught him what it meant to be chosen as family. I leaned against the counter. That's nice? It was. You sound disappointed. I'm trying not to be. Do better. He was silent for a moment. He didn't say anything bad about you, Michael said. I didn't expect him to. He didn't say anything about you at all. That was probably wise. Dad, this is their wedding, Michael. Don't spend it conducting an audit for me. I'm not. You called from the hallway during the reception. Because after the parent dance, Claire went outside. Is she all right? She said she needed air. That's allowed. She asked whether I knew if you watched. My hand tightened around the phone. What did you tell her? That I didn't know. Good. I could tell her now. She'll see my message. What if she doesn't check her phone? She will eventually. Michael lowered his voice. The dance was weird. With Graham? Not bad. Just polished. They took lessons. There's nothing wrong with lessons. I know. He kept counting. He likes measurements. So do you. Yes. He sighed. Go dance with your sister, I said. She's still outside. Then take her water. Don't tell her I'm alone. Don't tell her I'm fixing things. Don't turn me into a sad story on her wedding day. What should I tell her? That she's married. That seems obvious. People miss obvious things under pressure. The door opened on his end, and the music surged. Wait, he said. She's coming back. Go, Dad, go. I ended the call. At 9:46, Claire read my message. No reply came. I took the viewing card from the counter, placed it inside the envelope, and carried it to the drawer where I kept birthday cards, spare keys, and instruction manuals for appliances I no longer owned. I did not throw it away. At 11:17, a message appeared from Claire. Thank you for watching. A second message followed. I'm glad you saw. Then, after nearly a minute, I kept looking at the camera and feeling stupid. I sat down. You didn't look stupid, I wrote. The typing bubbles appeared, vanished, then appeared again. I thought if you saw me, maybe it would count as you being there. I looked at the words until they blurred. It counted as seeing you, I replied. I'm grateful for that. She did not answer. I didn't add what I knew we were both thinking. Seeing was not being there. A camera could show me the flowers, the vows, and the expression on her face when Aaron took her hand. It could not place me in the room. It could not give us the dance. It could not make absence into peace. At 12:30, Michael pulled into my driveway. He came in carrying his suit jacket over one shoulder and a bakery box in both hands. His tie was gone. His white shirt had a red stain near the cuff. What happened? I asked. Wine? To you? To a table. I helped. He opened the bakery box. Inside were 2 pieces of wedding cake, one vanilla and one chocolate. I brought options. I've already brushed my teeth. You're 64. Live dangerously. We sat at the kitchen table and ate cake with mismatched forks. The vanilla is better, he said. The chocolate cost more. How do you know? Spreadsheet. He nodded. For a while, we didn't talk about the wedding. He told me Janet was 60 and had voted for 3 different parties since McCain. I told him Ed had promoted his girlfriend without consulting her. Then Michael set down his fork. She was happy, he said. I know. She was also sad. I know. Mom looked happy. I know. You really have an answer for everything. No. I have 3 answers, and people keep giving me the same information. He pushed the remaining cake toward me. Claire asked me to tell you something. I told you not to be a messenger. I told her that. Good. She said it wasn't a message. She said to ask if you still do Sunday dinner. I looked at the cake between us. Did you answer? I said I didn't know. That was becoming a popular response. Do you? I thought about 6 potatoes, 4 place settings, and all the meals I had used to make closeness happen without requiring anyone to choose it. Not this Sunday, I said. Michael nodded. He did not ask about the Sunday after that. When he left, I wrapped the second piece of cake and placed it in the refrigerator. On the shelf above it sat a small carton of milk, 3 eggs, and nothing waiting for a family that might not come. For the first time, the emptiness did not look like punishment. It looked like space I had not decided how to use. The second piece of wedding cake lasted 4 days. I ate half of it Monday night. decided the frosting was too sweet, then finished it Thursday while standing in front of the open refrigerator. This was not inconsistency. It was research conducted under changing conditions. I did not cook Sunday dinner. At 4:30, my hands began moving toward the pantry out of habit. I had already taken down the roasting pan before I remembered there was no meal planned and no one expected. I put it back. Then I drove to Ed's house and returned his impact driver. He was in the garage refinishing a bar stool that looked as if it had survived an actual bar fight. "You keep it," he said. "I own one. Yours is weak. It's appropriate for my needs. Your needs are weak." His girlfriend, Marlene, appeared in the doorway behind him. She was a short woman with silver braids and an expression suggesting she had heard enough about both the tool and my needs. "You're Daniel," she said. "I am. He says your daughter got married without you." Ed stared at her. "That was private. You told me while I was brushing my teeth. That was in our home." Marlene looked at me. "He thinks location determines confidentiality. I'm learning a lot about his legal system." She invited me to dinner. I almost refused automatically, then realized there was no reason to go home except the comfort of being able to feel abandoned in private. They served stuffed shells. Ed complained that ricotta was cheese pretending to be insulation. Marlene told him to eat it or leave. They argued with an ease that fascinated me. Neither mistook disagreement for danger. Neither went quiet enough to make the other chase them. When I left, Marlene handed me a container of leftovers. "I returned containers promptly," I said. "I don't care if I ever see it again. That's reckless. It cost $3. I carried it home and put it on the same refrigerator shelf where Claire's wedding cake had been. The family learned that Sunday dinner no longer happened by gravity. Michael asked on Thursday whether I was cooking. I said I hadn't decided. He asked again Saturday and offered to bring groceries. We made hamburgers together and watched a football game neither of us cared about. Claire sent a photograph from her honeymoon. She and Aaron stood on a windy beach in Oregon, wearing rain jackets and holding paper cups. Her hair covered half her face. Aaron looked happier than he had at the wedding. "Beautiful," I wrote. "The coast or us?" she replied. "Aaron," she sent a laughing face. Our conversations remained small enough to cross safely. Weather. A recipe. An outlet in their guest room that turned out to be controlled by a wall switch, which Aaron discovered before I had to visit. When they returned home, Claire sent me a photograph of the rented arch stripped of greenery and lying behind the venue. "Still beige," she wrote. I answered, "Some things survive everything." She did not mention the invitation. Neither did I. Thanksgiving belonged to Susan that year. She and Graham had already planned it before the wedding, and the group message arrived as if nothing had changed. Susan listed the menu, assigned side dishes, and asked me to bring the mustard-glazed salmon because Claire preferred it to turkey. I read the message twice. Then I replied privately, "Thank you. I won't be coming." She called within 3 minutes. "Why? Because I don't want to. You always come for Thanksgiving. Last year you invited me. I invited you this year." "I know. Is this another boundary? It's a decision. Claire will think you're avoiding her. Claire can ask me. You're tearing up every tradition because you didn't get your way." "No. I'm examining traditions that depended on me pretending not to have a way." Susan went silent. "What are you doing instead?" she asked. "Michael and I are cooking. He's supposed to come here. He can decide." "You invited him knowing he was invited here." "I told him I wasn't going. He asked what I was doing. This is exactly the position you accuse me of putting Claire in." "No. Michael can attend both, neither, or invite us to a gas station. I won't punish him." "You say that now." "I mean it now." Michael spent the afternoon with me and went to Susan's for dessert. We cooked a turkey breast far too long, ruined gravy, and produced mashed potatoes with the consistency of building compound. It was the worst meal I had hosted in years. We laughed until I had to sit down. At 7, he changed his shirt and left with a store-bought pie. "You sure?" he asked at the door. "Yes." "You won't be weird tomorrow?" "I'll be weird in familiar ways." He hugged me and went. Claire called at 8:40. "I heard you and Michael made paste." He exaggerates. "Paste has adhesive properties. Mom says you refused to come because of her. Your mother enjoys being central. Why didn't you come?" "Because I didn't want my first family gathering after your wedding to be at Susan's house, acting as though nothing happened." "You could have told me. You could have asked." She was quiet. "That sounded like the old you," she said. "It felt like him." "At least you noticed." I am paying an expensive therapist named Michael. He overcharges. How was dinner? Crowded. Good crowded? Mostly. She hesitated. Mom made a toast about family loyalty. Of course she did. And Aaron asked whether loyalty meant agreeing with the person holding the gravy boat. I laughed. So, that went well? Graham said Aaron was being disrespectful. Aaron said he was asking a theological question. I'm starting to like him. You already liked him? Yes. Her voice changed. Do you like me? The question was so exposed that I sat straighter. I love you. I asked if you like me. Yes, Claire, I like you. Even now? Even now? Do you forgive me? I looked toward the dark window. I'm not ready to answer that over the phone after your mother's gravy. That means no. It means I don't want forgiveness to become another word we use to skip the conversation, she breathed out. Okay. It was not agreement. It was permission to continue later. Winter settled over the cul-de-sac. The repaired mailbox stood straight through rain, wind, and one early snow that melted before noon. Sunday meals became invitations instead of assumptions. Sometimes Michael came. Once Aaron joined us while Claire worked a late shift, then carried half a lasagna home without apologizing for the container. I began helping at the college one evening a week after a former colleague called about an overcrowded lab. I had no intention of returning to teaching. Then I found myself standing beside a faulty training panel, asking 6 adults why the breaker kept tripping. A man in the front said, "Because it's old, so am I told him. Yet here we both are. For 3 hours, people needed what I knew without needing me to surrender anything else. I came home tired in a way that felt cleaner. Claire saw my truck outside the college one evening and texted, "Teaching again? Temporarily. You sound happy. I'm complaining less efficiently." She responded with a heart and left it there. The knock on my door came after dark on a cold Tuesday. Claire stood on the porch holding nothing. No container, no photograph of broken furniture, no estimate, box, or request disguised as a visit. "Are you busy?" she asked. "I'm deciding whether a frozen pizza counts as cooking. It does if you put it in the oven. Low standards. Can I come in?" She took her usual chair in the kitchen. I set the pizza timer and sat across from her. For a while, she studied the herb clock. "Aaron and I had a fight," she said. "I'm sorry. I told him he was selfish." "Was he?" "No." The answer came quickly. "He wanted us to spend Christmas morning alone," she continued. "Just the two of us. Mom expects us at her house by 9. I said he knew holidays were important to her. He said they were important to him too. That sounds reasonable. I told him he was creating a conflict where there didn't need to be one. I waited. He said, "There's no conflict because you already decided who loses." The oven hummed behind us. "I heard your voice," she said. "I don't believe I've ever said that. You didn't have to." She rubbed her thumb over a scratch in the tabletop. "I keep doing it. Whoever is loudest becomes the emergency. Whoever stays calm gets assigned the cost. Mom cries, so I rearrange everything. Graham gets angry, so everybody stops. Aaron says he's fine, and I use it against him. Recognizing a pattern doesn't mean every situation is the same. I know. You also don't have to turn Susan into a villain to change. I know that too." I smiled faintly. "This is going faster than usual." She looked at me. "I'm sorry, Dad." The timer clicked in the silence, but did not ring yet. Claire sat up straighter. "I asked you to pay for a wedding I had decided you weren't allowed to attend. I made your love into a bill you were supposed to pay even after I removed you from the day. Then every time you said no to something else, I acted like you were abandoning me, because I had gotten used to calling you Dad when what I needed was a check, a repair, a truck, or someone who wouldn't argue." My throat tightened. "You called me Dad other times." "Not enough." I said nothing. She continued. "I told Aaron you understood because I expected you to understand eventually. I told Mom you had offered because you always had before. I wasn't trying to lie, but I treated what I wanted as if it had already happened. That is one of your talents. I know, and one of mine." She looked surprised. "I told myself you understood my love because I always showed up with a solution," I said. "I treated what I felt as if I had said it. Then I blamed you for not hearing." Claire's eyes filled. "I kept looking for you at the wedding," she said. "Not at the camera, at the doors. I was 40 minutes away. I know. You made your choice. I know. There was no defense in it. That mattered." Graham gave a good speech, she said. He loves me. I don't want to take anything away from him. You shouldn't. But during the dance, he kept counting under his breath. And all I could think was that you would have stepped on my dress and blamed the dress. I would have blamed the floor. She laughed and covered her mouth. The timer rang. Neither of us moved. I don't expect you to say it's okay, she said. It isn't. I know. I believe you're sorry. Is that forgiveness? It's the beginning of something. Her face crumpled slightly, then steadied. What happens now? She asked. We eat bad pizza after that. You stop asking for a complete relationship in one visit? She nodded. And I stop making you guess what I feel, I said. What do you feel? Angry, sad, relieved you're here. Afraid this will become another conversation we praise instead of changing anything. That's a lot. I've been saving. She reached across the table, palm up. I placed my hand over hers. We let the pizza burn around the edges. Claire came for dinner the following Sunday. She brought groceries and helped cook. When I handed her potatoes, she peeled 4 instead of 6. Near the end of the meal, she said, I want to host Christmas dinner. Michael looked at her. Aaron stopped cutting his roast. Everyone? Michael asked. Everyone. She looked at me. I'm inviting you, Mom, and Graham. Same time, same room. No late arrival, no special table, no conditions. I held her gaze. Does Susan know? I'm telling her tomorrow. The next evening, Claire called. Her voice trembled, but it did not sound uncertain. Mom says she won't come if you do. I closed my eyes. What did you tell her? I haven't answered yet. And for the first time, she wasn't asking me to decide for her. What do you want to tell her? I asked. Claire was quiet long enough that I heard Aaron open a cabinet in the background. I want to tell her I love her and I want her here. That sounds honest. I also want to tell her you're coming. Am I? Yes. The certainty in her voice went through me. You haven't asked, I said. I'm asking now. Will you come to Christmas dinner if I'm invited without conditions? You are, 4 o'clock. Wear something that doesn't make Aaron think he has to put on a tie. All my clothes have that effect. Dad? Yes, I'll come, she breathed out. What do I say to Mom? I looked through the front window. Snow remained in the shaded grass near the mailbox, a thin white line the sun had not reached. What do you want to say? I just told you. No, you told me what you want her to understand. What do you want to say? Claire made an impatient sound. Why are you doing this? Because if I give you the sentence, I become part of the decision. You are part of the decision. I'm part of the situation. It's still your decision. That's an annoyingly precise distinction. I had help raising you. She went quiet again. I want to say that you're my father, she said, and she's my mother. I love both of you. You have the same invitation. If she doesn't want to come, I'll be sad, but I'm not uninviting you. Say that. She'll cry. Probably. She'll say, I'm choosing you. Maybe. What if Graham calls? Don't answer. I can't just not answer. Watch me sometime. She almost laughed, then her voice tightened. I hate this. I know. I feel like I'm punishing her. You're not. How do you know? Because disappointment is not punishment. That sounds like something you taught at the college. I taught people not to touch energized conductors. Same idea, less screaming. She was silent once more. Can you stay on the phone while I call her? She asked. No, why not? Because you'll listen to my silence instead of your own voice. That is either very wise or extremely convenient. It can be both. I'll call you after. You don't have to. I know. We ended the call. I carried my phone from room to room for the next half hour, which proved that refusing to listen did not make me detached from the outcome. I washed 2 glasses. I opened the refrigerator without taking anything. I straightened the viewing card inside the drawer where I had placed it, then became irritated with myself and shut the drawer too hard. At 9:11, Claire called. I told her. How did it go? Badly. I'm sorry. She said you manipulated me into this. I told her you didn't know I was hosting until Sunday. That won't matter to her. I said the invitation was equal. She asked how it could be equal when only one of you was making her afraid. I sat on the edge of my bed. What did you say? I said she was allowed to be afraid. She wasn't allowed to make me solve it by erasing you. I closed my eyes. That's a good sentence. I came up with it myself, I can tell. Mine would have been shorter. She cried, "I know." Then Graham got on the phone and said he couldn't believe I was doing this after everything they had done for me. "What did you say?" "That I was grateful for everything they had done." Then I asked if they did it so I'd owe them every future decision. I let out a breath. "How did that go?" He called me disrespectful. His vocabulary is dependable. I told them I loved them and hoped they came. Mom said she wouldn't. "I'm sorry, I thought I'd feel strong. You did something difficult, not magical." She hung up on me. "I'm familiar with the experience." Claire made a wet, laughing sound. "Is this what it felt like?" she asked. "When I left your house with the invitation?" "Some of it." "How did you stand it?" "I fixed a mailbox." "That's not healthy. It's very straight." I'm going to regret asking, but was it worth it? The mailbox? Everything. I looked toward the kitchen, where the herb clock kept time in a house Susan had once shared. "Ask me after Christmas," I said. The family group message changed over the following week. Claire posted the menu and asked for dietary restrictions. Michael claimed an allergy to responsibility. Aaron replied that responsibility would be served separately. I offered to bring the salmon. Claire wrote, "You don't have to cook. I know." "Then why are you offering?" "Because I make good salmon." There was a pause before her response. Then, "Yes, please, because you want to." I reacted with the fork and knife picture. Susan remained in the group but said nothing. Graham did not react to any message. Michael privately predicted they would come because Susan had already purchased a dress. "How do you know she bought a dress?" I asked. "She texted me a photograph and asked if it looked too festive." "What did you say?" "I said it looked like a dress." Coward. I have Christmas plans. I did not ask Claire whether her mother had changed her mind. If Susan came, she came. If she stayed home, the empty chair would belong to her decision. Christmas morning arrived cold and clear. I prepared the salmon with mustard, brown sugar, lemon, and too much dill, then transferred it to a ceramic dish with an insulated cover. I almost brought wine, remembered Claire had assigned wine to Michael, and left it on my counter. At 3:45, I stood outside Claire and Aaron's condo, holding the warm dish. Through the door, I heard cabinet doors, music, and Aaron saying, "That is not where serving spoons go." Claire answered, "They go where I can find them. That's every location." I knocked. The door opened immediately. Claire wore a green sweater and a red apron dusted with flour. A strand of hair had come loose near her temple. For half a second, we looked at each other with the awkwardness of people who had recently said more truth than the relationship knew how to hold. Then she smiled. "Hi, Dad. Merry Christmas. I'm glad you're here." She said it before looking at the dish in my hands. That mattered more than it should have. She hugged me, careful not to tilt the salmon. Aaron came from the kitchen wearing a blue shirt with the sleeves rolled up and no tie. "Perfect," I told him. "What?" "The shirt." "You've met the dress code." He took the dish. "You didn't bring a container we have to return, did you?" "It's ceramic. So, yes, eventually." Michael arrived 10 minutes later, carrying 2 bottles of wine, a bag of ice, and no opener. "An adult learns his limits," he said. We were arranging food on the kitchen counter when Claire's doorbell rang. The room stopped. Claire wiped her hands on her apron and walked to the door. Aaron followed, but remained a few feet behind her. Susan stood in the hallway. Graham was beside her holding a pecan pie. She wore dark red. The dress did look festive. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Claire stepped forward and hugged her mother. "I'm glad you came," she said. Susan closed her eyes against Claire's shoulder. Graham shook Aaron's hand. His gaze moved past them and found me in the kitchen. I did not lift my chin, tighten my mouth, or make myself smaller. I simply waited. Susan entered first. When she reached me, she stopped. "Merry Christmas, Daniel." "Merry Christmas, Susan." She looked at the salmon. "You used too much dill." "I thought we needed something predictable." Her mouth moved slightly. Graham came up behind her. "Daniel, Graham." He shifted the pie from one hand to the other. "We brought dessert. I see that. It's from Fairview Bakery. They do good work." That exhausted our immediate supply of civility, but it was enough. Claire had placed Susan and me at opposite sides of the table, not at opposite ends. Graham sat beside her. I sat between Michael and Aaron. No one mentioned the arrangement. The meal began stiffly. Every request sounded loaded. "Could you pass the potatoes?" "Of course." "Does anyone need water?" "I'm fine." "More salmon?" "No, thank you." We behaved like diplomats attempting to prevent a small war through table manners. Then Aaron dropped an entire dinner roll into his wine glass. It happened while he was reaching for butter. His cuff caught the roll, which traveled across his plate and landed in the glass with a soft splash. Everyone stared. Aaron looked at the submerged roll. "I meant to do that," he said. Michael nodded. Modern. Claire laughed first. Susan followed. "Then I did." Even Graham smiled while Aaron extracted the roll with his fork and placed it on the edge of his plate like a rescued animal. The room loosened. Conversation moved toward safe subjects, and gradually forgot to be careful. Michael described an office gift exchange that ended with 3 people competing for a heated blanket. Graham admitted he had broken a window with the leaf blower. Susan said the window had been emotionally unsafe. She looked at me immediately after saying it. I laughed. So did she. It did not erase the phrase or everything behind it. It made room beside it. After dinner, Claire carried the plates to the kitchen. I stood to help. "Sit," she said. "There are 8 plates. I can count. I've seen your spreadsheet." "Dad." I sat. Graham helped Aaron clear the table. Michael found the wine opener in the drawer, where Claire insisted she had looked twice. Susan remained in her chair, turning her water glass slowly between her fingers. When the others were in the kitchen, she looked at me. "I almost didn't come. I know. I changed my mind 3 times in the parking lot. I'm glad you came. I still don't think you understand what being around you does to me. I probably don't." She looked surprised. "You usually explain why I'm wrong. I usually explain why I'm not responsible." "Is that different?" "Yes, but not always as different as I thought." She lowered her eyes. "I shouldn't have put Claire in that position," she said. "No. You don't have to agree so quickly. I'm trying something new." She gave me a tired smile. "I really thought you would be fine with the live stream." "I know. You were always fine." "I wasn't." "No," she said. "I suppose you weren't." From the kitchen came the sound of something breaking. Everyone froze. "I'm okay," Michael called. "The plate is passed." "Was it ceramic?" I asked. "Emotionally, yes." Susan laughed again. Then her expression grew serious. "Claire told me what she said to you," she said. "Which part?" "The apology. That was private. She wasn't reporting details. She was trying to explain why things had changed." "Do you believe her?" "I believe she believes them." It was the sort of answer Susan gave when she wanted doubt to sound generous. I didn't argue. She noticed. "I'm not ready to agree with you about the wedding," she said. "I'm not asking you to. I may never be. I know." She looked toward the kitchen, where Claire and Aaron were arguing about whether broken ceramic belonged in recycling. "This is uncomfortable," Susan said. "Yes. But I'm here." "Yes. So are you." I looked at her. "So am I said. The pecan pie was excellent. Graham told us 3 times where it came from, as though proximity to the bakery reflected well on him. Michael served pieces too large for anyone, and claimed generosity was his love language. No one made a toast. No one apologized publicly or announced a new beginning. We ate dessert. We drank coffee. We disagreed about a movie. Susan asked Aaron whether he and Claire planned to host again, and Claire answered before he could. "If we want to," she said. Susan paused, then nodded. When she and Graham left, Claire hugged her mother at the door. Susan held on longer than usual. Graham shook my hand on his way out. His grip was firm, without becoming a competition. Michael followed 20 minutes later, carrying leftover pie in one of Claire's containers. "Return this promptly," she told him. "I'm throwing it away." "You wouldn't." "No," he admitted. "I live in fear." Then it was just Claire, Aaron, and me. The kitchen looked as if 6 people had eaten in it. Glaces covered the counter, pans soaked in the sink. A streak of gravy crossed one cabinet door. I stood. Claire pointed at my chair. "Sit down. You already dismissed me once. I'm serious. So am I. Dad, I didn't invite you because I needed help cleaning." The words stopped me. Aaron leaned against the sink, watching us. Claire removed her apron and sat across from me. Without the table full of dishes, the room felt quiet, but not empty. "Was it worth it?" she asked. I knew what she meant. Susan had come, the dinner had survived, no one had vanished to purchase someone else's comfort. But that was not the whole answer. "I missed your wedding," I said. Her eyes lowered. "You missed having me there." "Yes." "We don't get that back." No. She looked at me again. But today? I said. Yes. Claire reached across the table, palm up. This time, when I placed my hand over hers, neither of us called it a beginning. We had used enough large words. Aaron turned on the faucet behind us. You can leave those, Claire told him. There are a lot. We'll do them later. He shut off the water. For once, nothing in the room needed to be solved before we could stay. So, I stayed.